in the league, they can slug it out toe-to-toe if they have to. With the top-rated quarterback in the CFL, the Argos can also take the scientific approach. Their cornerman hopes his team has enough punch to make its second straight Grey Cup appearance. In the gold corner, the Bombers. They can sting the opposition with the hardest-hitting safety in the league. Few players practice the sweet science of quarterbacking better than the Bombers starter. Even so, the Bombers are underdogs, and their cornerman knows it'll take some surprise blows to win this one. Who will deal the knockout punch to advance to the Grey Cup next week in Ottawa? We welcome our viewers from wherever you're watching to the CFL on CBC, your Grey Cup network, coast to coast.
The CFL on CBC. Brought to you by Carling O'Keefe, brewers of Foster's Lager, the Golden Throat Charmer. Petro-Canada dealers and agents. Our energy is Canada. And by Priority Post EMS Courier, your better business connection in Canada and around the world.
Bombers have only been in the Eastern Conference for a couple of years, but that's all the time it's taken for the Winnipeg-Toronto rivalry to develop into the most bitter in the CFL, replete with charges, countercharges, allegations of late hits, etc. The bitterness aside, these are two good teams that'll play the Eastern Conference final today. The record suggests that one is substantially better than the other, and now the Argonauts have 60 minutes in which to justify their role as favorites. There should be plenty of emotionally charged action for Don and Ron to describe today.
Well, Scott, with a 14-4 record and 2 wins over the Bombers during the regular season, the Argos certainly deserve to be installed as solid favorites. But, Ron, in a one-game showdown, anything can happen. What do you view as the keys to this afternoon's game?
Well, I think the key to the football game is getting to these two guys, Sean Salisbury and Gilbert Renfro. Salisbury took a pretty good beating out in Winnipeg from the Toronto Argonaut defense. They didn't sack him, but they beat him up pretty good. Gilbert Renfro took a lot of hits there also, but they're both big enough and strong enough to stand in the pocket and throw the football when they have to. Now, if you can get a running game going, it would surely help, and I think the Argonauts have the best chance at it with Lorenzo Graham. He's a very strong runner, but even more importantly, he'll be one of the guys blocking for Gilbert Renfro. Both teams are similar on one side of the field. To the wide side of the field, they normally put their two big gunners as far as pass receivers go. Jeff Boyd outside, Darryl Smith inside. This is what Winnipeg has to stop for them to win. If you flip it over and look at Winnipeg, same thing. James Murphy's an excellent wideout, but Buster Rhymes at 6'2", 200 pounds, is a big receiver inside and can run well with the football after he gets it. So you see the pass receivers are very similar, both going to the same side of the field. Defensively, still, the Bombers' key are their linebackers. Now, they've eliminated one of them. They're going to more or less a 4-3 defense. Delbert Fowler will be on the outside. Aaron Brown and West, they'll play games inside. What they've done today is taken Ramel Andrews, put him in at Dan Wicklam's spot. He will probably always be the rush end. I don't look for him to cover too many people downfield.
The Bombers defensively might give Toronto a few different looks. They'll also give them a different look offensively. Chris Walby is missing from that tackle position. He's been replaced by Steve Roda-Huskers. Can he handle Rodney Harding?
Well, I think he's going to have to handle Rodney Harding. Your tackles are the guys that are isolated one-on-one with the pass rushers, and I think for them to be successful, Roda-Huskers has to do a good job.
The Bombers and the Argos just about set to go in this Eastern Conference final. Now let's join Scott.
Well, Don, the Bombers will try and prove otherwise today, but consensus is the Argos are one of the best teams the CFL's seen in quite a while. At halftime and inside the CFL, we'll be joined live by a man largely responsible for the Argos' success. General Manager Leo Cahill will be with us, and we'll have a report on a man who is largely responsible for the Bombers being in the Eastern Conference final, quarterback Sean Salisbury. Stay with us. The kickoff is next.
2 degrees and rain that began overnight continues to fall on CNE Stadium, and it will likely continue throughout the afternoon. Jake Ireland is the referee for this Eastern Conference final. Brian McKee, Bud Steen, Larry Rohan, Ross Saunders, and Bill McDonald, the other members of the officiating staff, move into position as the Winnipeg Blue Bombers' Trevor Kennard prepares to kick off. The Bombers will have the advantage of the following wind in this opening quarter. Waiting for the signal from the referee, and there it is as the Winnipeg Blue Bombers kick off to get this game underway. Carl Brazley waits for the ball at his own 19-yard line. And Graisley is tripped up as he gets to the 37 by Leon Haciano. 18 yards on the return as Gilbert Renfro moves onto the field to direct the Argo attack.
Well, no change in the backfield for them. They've had that week off and chance to get everybody healthy, and especially when the only place they have a problem is at the wide receiver position, where we're going to see Danny Barrett, the third quarterback, play the wide receiver spot because of some injuries. Their offensive line, though, they had a chance to get Dan Ferroni healthy, so that offensive line's as strong as it ever was.
That's an interesting move with Danny Barrett coming into that wide receiver position, but some fans may forget that he played a slot back role with the Calgary Stampeders before being acquired by Toronto. Lorenzo Graham attempting to run, and 3 Bombers converge on him, led by Ramel Andrews. Now, Andrews might show as a down lineman on occasion, but he will probably be moved around a fair bit and to get back into that linebacking core as well.
Yeah, they're just going to move him around, but wherever he lines up, he'll be the rush end from the whatever side of the field he lines up on. The Blue Bomber defense now is healthy. That's the only change that they really made. Ramel Andrews plays at that rush end. Everybody else is the same they've had.
2nd and 8, Toronto. The ball is at the 40-yard line. Renfro over the middle to Paul Nastasiuk, and he has a big first down to the Winnipeg 44-yard line, bounced out of bounds by James Jefferson.
Well, they ran that over and under pattern that every team likes to throw so much. They bring Nastasiuk underneath, and everybody's concerned about Darryl Smith. You see him at the bottom of your screen. He'll go 14 yards and across, but coming underneath, you have Nastasiuk being covered by James West, the linebacker. He cannot run with him, and when he catches the football, there's so much room, he just turns it upfield. So he's not the primary receiver, but they got a big game.
Prior to the game, we talked to Bob Obilovich, and we asked him if he was happy with the play of Nastasiuk. He said very much, but we probably haven't gone to him as much as we should. That was a big play. Lorenzo Graham, the ball carrier, to the 43-yard line, stopped there by Mike Gray. Nastasiuk came to the Toronto Argonauts from the Ottawa Roughriders, and he has really fit in, handling that slot back position very well. A very quiet individual. Obi said he doesn't say much in the dressing room. At times, you don't even realize he's around.
Yeah, you probably wish you had more players like that. Some of them never shut up, and sometimes you need a guy to talk. Nastasiuk's very quiet, as you say. He's from Wilfrid Laurier, and I thought they made a great acquisition when they got him.
All sorts of movement in that Toronto backfield. Renfro is under pressure. He's being chased by Mikolas. Gets away initially. Still looking downfield. Throws, and it's intended for Darryl Smith, short, and the Toronto Argonauts will be forced to kick.
That was a good move by Renfro to throw the football. Whether Darryl Smith catches it or not, the big thing is if he would have got sacked back there, it would have been almost 30 yards. And when a game's like this in these kind of conditions, field position is so important.
He was able to utilize the referee, too, as a unwitting blocker, because with Mikolas in pursuit, he ran around referee Jake Ireland and was able to get into the clear. Hank Olisic back to punt, standing at his own 53-yard line. Look for the Bombers to try and pressure Olisic. Perhaps not on this opening kick, but they will be going after him. The ball bounces. Paul Shorten finally picks it up, and Shorten is stopped at the 22-yard line.
We got a real look at what the wind will do. Olisic hit that ball really well. It come off of his foot just the way you'd want it to, and all of a sudden the wind gusted and hit it, knocked it right out of the air. So Sean Salisbury gets a good field position, that's a lot better than he could have had. Let's put it that way. He needs to try to get a running game going, and he's going to have to get blocking from those 2 slot backs if he's going to do that. The Argonauts play good defense. Rhymes is big enough to block. Up front, we talked about Rhoda Huskers, but the pressure's going to be on Black and Rhoda Huskers. I think the tackles are the key today.
Salisbury dumps it off over the middle, and Tony Johns has a gain of about 5, maybe 6 yards. You talked about the wind and its effect on the kick by Olisic. It only traveled 28 yards.
And that just knocked it right out of the air for him. So the Argonaut defense had their work cut out because the Bombers have that wind at their back. You know, they made the one change along that defensive line. They put Don Baldwin in there with 5 quarterback sacks. He sat out a while for Harold Holland, but I think today his height and containing ability is the reason he's playing.
2nd and 5, Winnipeg. That's hit screen to Ken Winey, and that produces a first down up to the 40-yard line. They like to go with that hit screen most times to James Murphy. This time they put Ken Winey out there, and they convert it into a first down.
And I think that's probably why they went to Winey. I think everybody in the league knows they love to throw that thing to Murphy because of his running ability. So when you do that, you have to rotate the defense, and that makes it easier on the other side.
First carry for Tim Jesse, and Jesse fights his way out to the 45-yard line. That will be a gain of close to 5 yards. He is stopped by Doran Major and Delorier.
Well, they got 5 yards against a defense that really doesn't give up many yards. I think they're giving up a little about 80 yards a game on the ground. That forces you to throw the football. So if Winnipeg can get Jesse moving for 5 yards a shot, it's going to sure help Sean Salisbury.
2nd and 5, Winnipeg. It's still scoreless, 10:48 remaining in this opening quarter. Pass to the sidelines. James Murphy with a first down out of bounds at the 54-yard line.
Salisbury sure made a nice read on that. You know, he's just looking for the first down. He had both wide receivers going down and breaking to the outside quick. He found the single coverage. Pleasant had Murphy one-on-one. To this side of the field, they were looking after him. They dropped their zone this way, so he made a good read on his first shot.
James Murphy comes out wide right, Winey to the left. Salisbury looking to his left, and the pass is complete to Buster Rhymes, and he'll have a gain of about 6 yards. And covering on the play was Doran Major. For a moment, it looked as though Major was going to win the battle for that ball.
Well, I was really surprised when he threw it out there. 2 blue jerseys around him. I thought he was going to throw it up in the Argonaut bench. He was standing flat-footed, which means he wanted to throw it quick. It wasn't open, and now he had to relax. He was very fortunate to hit that one.
Salisbury rolling out of there, throwing to Randy Faby for a first down at the 40-yard line. Sean Salisbury now 5 for 5 for 41 yards as Randy Faby accepts the throw for a first down to the Toronto 40-yard line. And something that Salisbury appears to be doing today that he didn't do the last time they met was get out of there and away from that pressure.
I think that's what they had to do a little bit of. Get him away from there, because if Toronto knows he's going to sit in that pocket, it's a lot easier on those defensive linemen. This way he makes them work a little bit.
Hand off to Tim Jesse, and Jesse will have a gain of about 4.5, maybe 5 yards before middle linebacker Ben Zambiazzi brings him down. 9:14 is the time remaining in this opening quarter. This drive for the Bombers started back in their own 23-yard line, and it's now 2nd and 6 at the Toronto 36. Salisbury incomplete. He underthrew Tim Jesse. Jesse was in a rather awkward position to try and accept that low throw.
Yeah, when you're running toward the sidelines, looking back at the quarterback, and the ball's thrown low behind you on this kind of a field with a little bit of wetness on it, you can't stop and turn and catch it. Makes it a difficult catch for him.
Trevor Kennard will be attempting a 48-yard field goal. The Bombers trying to be first on the board this afternoon at CNE Stadium in this Eastern Final as Carl Braisley is back in the end zone, the lone man back. Bob Cameron will hold. And the kick is good as the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are on the board. A 43-yard field goal by Trevor Kennard with 8:30 remaining in the opening quarter here at CNE Stadium. With a 71-44-3 lifetime coaching record with the Argos, Mike Riley 21-15 in his 2 seasons as head coach of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Last year, their roles were reversed. Riley was the first place finisher in the Eastern Conference, and his team held home field advantage. Gilbert Renfro for Nastasiuk, and he makes a good grab on the sidelines for an advance of 5 yards out to the 40-yard line.
Well, you see Benny Thompson over there right away talking to the official. He wants a penalty called for offensive interference. He thought it was a pick. Very close to being a pick. He didn't really get in the way, but he forced the defender to go around, and defensive backs don't like that.
One thing Benny Thompson doesn't want to do is talk too much to the officials, because Mike Riley was concerned that his club might take some stupid penalties in this game, and that has been their trademark almost during the course of this season.
Yeah, there's no sense taking those today. This is too big a football game for that to happen.
Incomplete. The pass was intended for Warren Hudson coming out of the backfield. The Argos coaches view him as the best blocking back in the entire league. So the Winnipeg offense prepares to go back on the field, leading by a score of 3-0 with 7:50 remaining in this opening quarter. They should get the ball in good field position because Olisic will again be kicking into that very strong wind, and this time, Ron, they might go after him.
Well, they love to go after Olisic, and I know Olisic knows that. It seems like anytime he's played against the Cal Murphy club, whether he's general manager or coach, and with Mike Riley in the last 2 years, they do go after him.
Benny Thompson almost knocked one of the blockers back into illicit. Ken Petley is stopped immediately at the 31-yard line. 7:26 remains. That was a good kick of 45 yards by Hank Illicik with a 5-yard return. At a rainy, cold, and windy CNE Stadium, Winnipeg scrimmaging. 1st and 10, the ball at the Bomber 32-yard line following that Hank Illicik punt. Winnipeg in front by a score of 3-0. Salisbury throwing the screen to Tony Johns, and Johns gets the first down up to the 45-yard line.
So far, Don, you have to be impressed with the way Salisbury's moved the club. That first drive of theirs, even though they didn't get the touchdown, they got a field goal. But he's throwing the short passes. Comes out on 1st down. He gets tremendous pressure from Toronto, so throw some screen passes. Slow him down. Gets it out to Jesse. He gets him in front of him. You see Lyle Bauer in front. Picks up good yardage. I mean, if you throw the short ones, it slows that rush down, and that's what he's got to do today.
1st and 10, Winnipeg. The Bombers at their own 45-yard line. Salisbury gives to Jesse, and Jesse will only get a couple of yards before he's hauled down by Dorn Major and Don Moan. That gives you an indication of how strongly the wind is blowing this afternoon at CNE Stadium.
And you know, Don, it's even stronger. I don't know how it can be, but look at the flags at the other end. They're even blowing harder, so the wind has picked up.
Second and 8. Salisbury throwing over the middle, and Buster Rhymes makes the catch for a first down at the 51-yard line. Again, Salisbury threw that with a couple of blue jerseys around the receiver.
But what I was going to say, you know, we talked about his downfield vision before. He's got terrific downfield vision. Watch him sprint to his left. You see Tony John sits outside, and he comes in to help block on Kulka. Now he just turns, looks back inside, throws it right between those two blue jerseys, right on the money. He's got good vision.
1st and 10, Winnipeg. The ball at the Argo 51-yard line. Tony Johns, the ball carrier, and Johns will get about 5 before wrestled down by Glenn Kulka.
I was watching that time as Jesse takes the handoff. They brought Randy Favey back in motion, and he blocks on Don Moan. Now, he's never going to hurt Don Moan the way he hit him, but the big thing is he occupies him, and that forces him to not being allowing him to get in on the tackle. That's what we say when the slot backs have to block. You don't expect them to hurt anybody. Just occupy a guy.
Gilbert Renfro staying loose at that Toronto Argonaut bench as Salisbury faces 2nd and 5. The ball is at the 46 of the Toronto Argonauts. Winnipeg in front 3-0. There's a penalty flag. This will be a time count violation against Winnipeg.
This is the thing you don't want. See, the key for Salisbury, the way this game's gone so far, is to stay out of the 2nd and long situations where Toronto knows he has to throw the ball deep downfield. That's what he's got to do. Right now he's looking at 2nd and 10. Let's see if they put some pressure on him.
Murphy goes wide left. Ken Winey comes out to the right. The pass to Winey. Winey is tackled almost immediately at the 45-yard line. Laurent Delorier, the safety, came in to bring him down.
They lined up like they were going to come after him. They put 8 men on the line of scrimmage. They showed him a blitz situation, and all of a sudden on the snap, they backed right out of there. And they forced him to throw it underneath the zone.
4:51 the time remaining in this opening quarter. And Winnipeg sends out the punting unit. On the season, Hank Illicik had just a slight edge over Bob Cameron of Winnipeg in the punting department. Dan Wicklum moves in to center the ball on 3rd down. Trying to angle it out of bounds. It will bounce into the end zone. Cameron was trying to hit it to the sidelines, but I think that wind caught it and took it into the end zone. And it's a single point for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers on that 45-yard punt by Bob Cameron.
The Exhibition Stadium in Toronto. Let's talk preparation for just a moment. A much shorter week than the Bombers had in mind to get ready for the Argonauts. They returned to practice on Wednesday following their semifinal victory over the Hamilton Ticats, but these were the conditions at Winnipeg Stadium, so that practice a write-off, as was Thursday's. They worked out here in Toronto on Friday and Saturday and felt they really only accomplished a great deal yesterday. So they're in this Eastern Final, Don, basically on one good day of practice.
Well, they were quite appreciative of getting into CNE Stadium for that one day of practice. They were fighting the elements at home, the wind and the cold. And Scott, I think you're rather happy that we're playing this Eastern Final at CNE Stadium where it's wet and not nearly as cold as it is today back in Winnipeg. Lorenzo Graham, the ball carrier, stopped by Mike Gray after a gain of just 2 yards. The Argos felt that they would try and establish a ground game, but so far they haven't had a great deal of success.
Well, Winnipeg's going to move those defensive linemen around now with that change with Romeo Andrews being in there. It's going to make it a little more difficult because they don't know where he's going to line up.
Renfro rolling to his right. He's being pressured by Delbert Fowler. The ball thrown, and it's intercepted. Picked off by James Jefferson. And the Winnipeg Blue Bombers take over at the Toronto 50. Day of practice. They were fighting the elements at home, the wind and the cold. And Scott, I think you're rather happy that we're playing this Eastern Final at CNE Stadium where it's wet and not nearly as cold as it is today back in Winnipeg. Lorenzo Graham, the ball carrier, stopped by Mike Gray after a gain of just 2 yards. The Argos felt that they would try and establish a ground game, but so far they haven't had a great deal of success.
Well, Winnipeg's going to move those defensive linemen around now with that change with Romeo Andrews being in there. It's going to make it a little more difficult because they don't know where he's going to line up.
Renfro rolling to his right. He's being pressured by Delbert Fowler. The ball thrown, and it's intercepted. Picked off by James Jefferson. And the Winnipeg Blue Bombers take over at the Toronto 53-yard line. Renfro threw that ball with Delbert Fowler in his face.
Fowler in his face and throwing back across the field right into the teeth of that wind. Excellent play by Jefferson, and you know he's the guy that has to play well today because this is the guy everybody figures that Toronto's going to go after is James Jefferson. But the wind held it up, he made the play and gives him good field position.
So with the interception by Jefferson, the Bombers leading 4-0, take over. 1st and 10 at the Toronto 53-yard line. 3:24 is the time remaining in the opening quarter. James Murphy on the receiving end of the throw. He has a first down, stopped by Ben Zambiazzi. You talk about keys in the ball game. Many felt that one of the keys would be how James Jefferson defended against Jeff Floyd. Offensively for Winnipeg, it would be the receiving skills of James Murphy.
That's right. And you have to worry about Murphy. And so far, Salisbury's got away with throwing the ball right where it had to be. Like Don Moen was in great position to get that pass. He went for it and went right under his arm, right into Murphy's hands. Salisbury's throwing the ball extremely accurate today.
1st and 10, Winnipeg. The ball is at the 42-yard line of Toronto. They hand off to Tim Jesse. And Jesse manages to pick up about 4 yards before being stopped by Ben Zambiazzi. Zambiazzi, the veteran who came over to the Argos late in the year after spending all of his previous CFL career with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. He's never missed the playoffs during his CFL career. That's quite a record.
Sure is, especially when you're talking 11 years, and he played that like he is a veteran. He sat in that middle, and he waited until he read what happened. He saw the counter coming, and he stepped right up into the hole they were trying to run to make the tackle.
2nd and 5, Winnipeg. Salisbury's in trouble. Harding and Zambiazzi were both coming through, and they got to Sean Salisbury back at the 50-yard line.
Well, for the Argonauts to win today, this is what they have to do. You've got to get to the quarterback. This time they come with Zambiazzi. Last time they dropped him right out at the last minute. He had nowhere to throw the football. This was a designed drop-back pattern. It's what you call a coverage sack. The coverage was excellent, therefore Salisbury pulls it down, and a guy like Harding, who's been their leader all year with 12 sacks, he's there to help on another one.
Well, we talked at the start of the telecast just how important Harding would be defensively today for the Toronto Argonauts. That is a big play with 1:50 remaining in this opening quarter. Cameron tries to kick it to the other side this time, hoping that the wind will carry it out of bounds. And Darrell Smith has no opportunity but to step out of bounds at the 17-yard line. On the previous punt, Cameron tried to kick it down the right side. It appeared to be going out of bounds, but the wind brought it back into the field of play. Work being done at the Toronto bench on linebacker Ben Zambiazzi. He'll get a rest now. He hopes a rather prolonged one as the offense starts the series from the 17.
You see Mike Wicklum, Dan Wicklum, rather, the offensive center, they put 2 people on him trying to get him to make a bad snap. They give him a pretty rough ride. They're trying anything to upset him because the ball's wet. They're hoping that they can get a bad snap out of it.
Lorenzo Graham is brought down by Willie Fears. It'll be a loss of maybe 4 yards. Spears was through very, very quickly.
Willie Spears is 280 pounds, and when he penetrates into the backfield, if he can get that lineman shoved back as he did there, you're not going to be able to run away from him, and he was there regardless the guy goes inside or outside, he had him.
Well, the Argos would certainly like to convert this second down play as we move into the final minute of this opening quarter, because they don't want to kick against the wind. Although it appears to be more of a crosswind now than it was at the start of the game, where it was blowing the length of the field. Here's a penalty call against the Argonauts. This is going to be a time count violation. The second of the game, one earlier against Winnipeg, this against Toronto.
I was just checking.
Time count violation. Toronto number 14. Second down.
Just checking the flags. We're talking about a crosswind. The flags at the scoreboard end look like they're almost blowing toward us a little bit or down the field. The ones over on the baseball side are blowing right out to the lake, so we got a heck of a wind going. I don't know which way it's blowing.
The rain had earlier eased off, but it appears to be coming down just as heavily as it was about an hour and a half before the game. Deep throw, looking for Danny Barrett. Well over his head. Barrett running out of that wide receiver position, being covered by Rod Hill. So with 36 seconds remaining in this opening quarter, the Toronto Argonauts will be forced to kick, and Lissick will be back in his own end zone.
You know, that time he did have the right pattern called. He had Benny Thompson trying to come up and fake a safety blitz, so immediately try to send somebody into that area. Just overthrow it. He was covered extremely well by Rod Hill, who is their best coverage man.
Paul Shorten, the lone man back. A pretty good indication that the Blue Bombers will be going after it. They blocked one against Lissick the first time they met on October 23rd. Lissick gets away a pretty good driving kick, actually an excellent kick, as Shorten has to go back to the 50-yard line, and he won't get any further than the 47 as Doran Major was there to make the tackle. Under pressure, that was a 43-yard boot by Hank Lissick. Well, a week from today, we invite you to join us on CBC television for all the excitement of Grey Cup Sunday. Countdown to kickoff, followed by the Grey Cup game itself. All of it on CBC television, your Grey Cup network from coast to coast. Salisbury going deep for the first time for James Murphy. He's got it! What a catch Murphy made. He reacted unbelievably to that football that was being blown around by the wind on the final play of the opening quarter. A 46-yard pass to Murphy. It will be first and goal when we return.
Interception. This is a heck of a call. Last play of the quarter, you got the wind at your back. Let's take the chance. Even if they intercepted, he just threw it. Murphy ran about 3 different patterns, finally looked straight back over his head, made a heck of a catch to get it down the 1-yard line. But he was inside, he went outside, and all of a sudden adjusted his ball. That's a great catch by a good receiver.
James Murphy, the Shenley Award winner 2 years ago as the country's outstanding player. First and goal, Winnipeg, and Tony Johns has the touchdown. The first play of the second quarter, and Tony Johns puts it in the end zone. An interesting story on Tony Johns. A year ago, he scored the winning touchdown for the Toronto Argonauts in their triumph over the Winnipeg Blue Bombers at Winnipeg Stadium. Tony Johns, part of the swap that saw Jeff Boyd come to Toronto, puts the Bombers in front by a 10-0 margin as Trevor Kennard prepares for the point after.
Nothing fancy here. You just run straight ahead, get in beside Nick Visaya, David Black, Lyle Bauer, hope for a stalemate, get a good head of steam, and go that 1 yard into the end zone.
So the Bombers lead it by a score of 11-0. We'll be back with their kickoff after this. Well, Tony Johns scored the touchdown, but the major was set up by a brilliant catch by James Murphy. As the Bombers now kick off, and the ball bounces back to Dwight Edwards at the 30-yard line, and Dwight Edwards roars out to the 52. He stopped there by Vernon Paul, a 22-yard run back.
Good return, but I didn't expect the ball to travel too far against that wind, and it didn't. He got it on that bounce and got it to around midfield.
Well, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers had 138 yards in total offense in that opening quarter to 33 for the Toronto Argonauts, but the Argonauts now get that wind advantage for their first offensive series of this second quarter. The ball is at the 51-yard line. Winnipeg in front by a score of 11-0. The The Bombers 35-28 winners over the Hamilton Tiger Cats in the semifinal last week. The pass complete to Lorenzo Graham. He's got an Argonaut first down. The ball at the Winnipeg 49. Delbert Fowler made the tackle. James West was blitzing, but Renfro was able to get rid of the football before West got to him.
Set a screen up. West came in. They give him the shove. Ferroni gave him a shove. Maybe not enough, but he got rid of it. And then you saw the good balance of Lorenzo Graham. He just shook off the one tackler, and Aaron Brown couldn't bring him down, and he bounces it forward, gets it off and close to the first down.
They rule that he touched the turf before he got that first down. On second down, he gets the first down to the Winnipeg 40-yard line.
You know, you never know what's going to be a big play in a ball game, and that first down screen pass to Graham, when he caught the ball and shook off the tackler and got 10 yards and then come right back and bang, blow him out of there and get another 4 or 5, you start to get momentum when you make first downs, and that's what they hadn't done to this point.
He had great success against Winnipeg the first time these two teams met on the 23rd of October, running for better than 100 yards. First and 10, the Argos at the Winnipeg 41-yard line. Renfro to Graham. He is hit immediately. The tackle made by Darrell Sampson, moving from his inside halfback position, restricting the advance to about 3 yards. It will be 2nd and 7.
It's a good tackle by Sampson, because with Lorenzo Graham, you got one-on-one out there, a good back, and Lorenzo Graham with the football. Sampson has to make this play because the corner, Rod Hill, had gone in with a wide receiver. If he doesn't make it, he'll turn upfield for a big gain. Good defense.
2nd and 7, Toronto. Renfro with good protection, throwing over the middle to Darrell Smith. It appears he's going to be stopped short of the first down by Aaron Brown with help from Benny Thompson.
Big thing, the Argonauts are trying to throw the ball downfield, and a big thing, they're being forced to throw underneath. And in this time, as you say, they're going to be, I think, a good 1.5 yards, almost 2 yards short of that first down. It's a big decision for Bob Abilovich to make.
Smith was the team's leading receiver with 73 receptions. Boyd had the most touchdowns, 11. Lance Chomick, who became the first Argo to ever score more than 200 points, will attempt a field goal from 39 yards. John Conjemi, the backup quarterback, will hold. Rod Hill is the lone man back. Kick is good. Chomick has proven to be very accurate this year from inside that 40-yard line. You compare the two teams in a number of offensive categories, the Toronto Argonauts have a definite edge. As you have often said, Ron, that's one of the reasons they play these games.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of reasons for where the Bombers finished offensively. Look at the number of changes they made on their football team back to the beginning of the season. I mean, how many quarterbacks they went through, running backs, and so on. You don't worry about that now. It's all on the line this afternoon, and the winner moves on, and the other ones pack it up for the year.
Jesse, the ball carrier, running hard to the 40-yard line. He'll have a gain of about 4, stopped by Moan and Major.
This is the quarter that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers would love to control the football. Whether they score a point or not, they would love to be able to move it with those 4-yard shots with running from Jesse, the quick passes by Salisbury, because they don't want the ball in the hands of the Argonaut offense when they got that wind behind them.
Seems to be a little confusion for Winnipeg on this 2nd down play. Salisbury over the middle, and Randy Faby should have the first down at the 47-yard line.
2 key catches by Faby right now. Inside, over the middle, lunging for the football just far enough, just gets to the 1st and 10 marker, keeps that drive alive. This is what Winnipeg wants to do.
Doesn't have the great speed, but he does have the size. 6'4", 205 pounds out of Western Ontario. 1st and 10, Winnipeg. The Bombers leading 11-3, 11:02 remaining in this first half. Salisbury throws complete to Ken Winey. There is also a penalty flag. That should be a first down, but it could be called back.
No, I believe it's going to go against the Argonaut defense. Number 38, Ben Zambiazzi, grabbed hold of Tim Jesse as he tried to come out of backfield. He just grabbed him and spun him around right in front of the official.
I saw that holding indication early, but it's not often you see a holding call against the defense.
Especially the middle linebacker, but as both these teams do,
Toronto number 38, first down.
They move them around so that they're not always in the position that you call them to be, and Ben was outside, and when Jesse tried to release, he just necktied him and held on to him.
The ball is at the Toronto 51-yard line. All sorts of movement at the line of scrimmage. And will it be a procedure call or an offside call? It appears as though it's going against the Argos.
I don't think there was much doubt about it. They were going to blitz that time. They had everybody within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage and getting closer. Salisbury took them on a long count.
Toronto. Still first down.
And that takes care of that. Watch them, see? They're trying to anticipate that snap count. Too late. They're all caught inside that zone. That's good quarterbacking. That's why you change snap counts. Keep the defense off balance.
1st and 5, Winnipeg. Incomplete. It was intended for Tony Johns. They were trying to set up the screen to Johns, and he was unable to hang on to the football. I think the quarterback, Salisbury, may have also thrown it just a little quicker than he wanted to because of the pressure he was getting up the middle.
Yeah, he was getting the pressure. He had to throw the football. And what I liked about what Salisbury did there, he went on the long snap previous. This time he goes on the first down. That keeps that defense. Doesn't allow him to get wound up.
Well, those postseason battles involving Winnipeg and Toronto have primarily been at the Grey Cup, as last year was the first season that Winnipeg was in the Eastern Division. The pass intended for Buster Rhymes, it's incomplete, and Winnipeg now will be kicking into that win.
The last time that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers kicked the football, we saw them put 2 men right over top of Wicklum again, and see if they do it this time. You know, first time they didn't do it, second time they did. They were going to try to mix it up on him. Hopefully, he's going to snap one over their head. That's what they would like to see.
Carl Brazeley and Darrell Smith are back with his 3rd down kick. They have Harding and Bayless lined up over the center, Wicklum. Very good kick by Cameron. Brazeley fumbles the football and is stopped right at the 4-yard line. The first man downfield was Benny Thompson. That is a 46-yard kick by Winnipeg punter Bob Cameron. So obviously, Ron, that wind has become more of a crosswind than blowing the length of the field as it was at the start of the game.
Also, I think when you kick the football, it's a lot like throwing the football. He kicked the perfect spiral. It went up, turned over nice. Same thing. If you do that, the wind won't bother him much. If when a quarterback doesn't have a strong arm, you throw into the wind and it wobbles, the wind knocks it out of there. We've always talked about Cameron's ability to kick against the wind. He showed you why right there.
So with 9:34 remaining in the opening half, it's 1st and 10 Argos from their own 4-yard line. Deep down the sidelines for Boyd, and he's overthrown. He was in a foot race with James Jefferson. This is the matchup that the Toronto Argonauts are expected to work on, Boyd against Jefferson.
I was looking down there, and they had the defensive backs right up on the line of scrimmage and 3 receivers to this side. Epwood, Jefferson, and Boyd one-on-one regardless. And what happened on the snap of the ball, Jefferson missed him and allowed Boyd to get that step. And Renfro overthrew it, but he did have a step on him.
They send Boyd wide to the left again, working against Jefferson. It's 2nd and 10 from the 4-yard line. Darrell Smith out to the 15-yard line, and he will be very close to the first down. Stopped by West and Jefferson. They lined up in the same formation, but rather than go deep to Boyd, they threw to the slot back, Darrell Smith.
West has got to get back deep because of the zone they were in, and what happens is Renfro hits him before he gets to West. He's right in the middle between an outside halfback and a linebacker, and Smith's able to fall forward and get 10 yards for the first down.
Andy Barrett wide to the right. Boyd lines up to the left on the first down play. The pitch to Lorenzo Graham, and Graham gets to the line of scrimmage and not much more before being stopped by Darrell Sampson.
Well, we talk about a good blocking back. You know, the Argonauts are proud of the way Hudson is performing back here in that role. He was the lead blocker on that. He took Ramel Andrews on, hit him right in the chest, bounced him outside. But the big thing, he forced the ball carrier in. That's what Andrews did, and they make the tackle before he made a good block.
Not the type of statistics that Ozilovich would like to see for Lorenzo Graham so far in the ballgame. Winnipeg showing blitz. The Argos pick it up. Intended for Nastasiuk. He was racing downfield with Darrell Sampson. It's incomplete.
Boy, that was a heck of an effort in the backfield. You know, we were talking to Coach Abilovich before the game, and he was talking about Graham's ability to step up and pick up a blitzer when he comes. He stepped right up from his halfback position and picked up the blitzing safety man. Watch, coming right up the middle. 37 makes his block. Lorenzo Graham's got his block on the other side. The pocket's going to collapse fast, as it does. He's wide open because he got the shoulders turned on Sampson, but again, Renfro's throwing the ball high.
7:42 remaining in the half. Olisic stands at his own goal line for this third down kick. That ball seemed to come off the foot of punter Hank Olisic in a rather strange way. Paul Shorten returns it to the 44-yard line. So the Winnipeg Blue Bombers take over 1st and 10 in Argo territory.
Exhibition Stadium, where winning does not cure all, certainly not as far as fan support is concerned. No one knows it better than the Argos, and we'll talk to General Manager Leo Cahill about that and other things on Inside the CFL at halftime. We'll also have a feature report on the Winnipeg quarterback, who's having quite a day, Sean Salisbury. Don?
One of the interesting things, under very miserable conditions at CNE Stadium, the Argos might have one of their best crowds of the year. Salisbury throwing to the sidelines, and Ken Winey got himself turned around and was unable to accept the throw. That's only the 4th pass that Salisbury has missed in 16 attempts.
That was Salisbury's problem, too. It wasn't Winey's. Winey ran the pattern. He had the one-on-one coverage. He broke to the sideline, but the ball's delivered high and inside. Certainly can't blame the receiver on a day like today.
2nd and 10 Winnipeg from the Toronto 44-yard line. 7:05 remaining in the half. Salisbury throwing to the sidelines, and it's knocked down by Reggie Pleasant.
A little bit fortunate again. Threw that into coverage. When you say into coverage, there's more blue jerseys than there are white. There were 3 blue jerseys around the football. Pleasant was able to knock it out.
Salisbury was on a streak. He had won 4 consecutive games before facing the Argos in that back-to-back series, October 23rd and 30th, and he felt the wrath of the Argos, particularly in that second game at Winnipeg Stadium, where he took a lot of hits. Finally, he was taken out of the ball game with some very sore ribs. Cameron stands at his own 52-yard line for this third down punt. He'd like to unload one similar to his previous kick. It's a wobbler. It's taken by Darrell Smith on the run, and Smith is brought down at the 24-yard line. A 28-yard kick with a 9-yard run back.
The difference in the 2 kicks was just the way the ball came off his foot. It didn't come up in the perfect spiral. It was wobbling, therefore 28 yards instead of 45.
Rain suits and umbrellas, necessary gear this afternoon at CNE Stadium. For a while there, the heavy overcast appeared to be breaking, and it looked as though we might not have as much precipitation, but it has begun raining rather heavily again. Knocked away by Ken Petway, intended for Darrell Smith. It will be 2nd and 10 Toronto.
Well, that's a heck of a defensive play by Petway. Smith goes into the flat. The wide receiver comes to the post. Quarterback decides, okay, the defensive back's off him. Look at that. Gets that left hand out of there. If he gets there a step sooner and gets that right hand, he waltzes into the end zone. Good defense.
Well, despite the fact that feelings have been running very high all week as these two teams prepared for this Eastern Final, there have been very few penalty flags. As a matter of fact, I think only 4, and 2 of those were for time count violations. Here's pressure on quarterback Renfro. He gets it away to Graham, and Graham is taken out of bounds at the 37-yard line by Aaron Brown. Mike Gray, however, dumped quarterback Gilbert Renfro on his back as he threw that football. Let's take another look at it.
Well, we talk about you've got to get to the quarterback. Now, they have everybody going inside. Gray comes in as he's throwing the football and rides him down. But, you know, when you get a guy that's about 250, 260 pounds falling on you, anything can happen. Renfro is pretty strong. He just gets up and walks away. But they had a pick play into the flat to Graham. He just wasn't able to get there.
6 minutes remaining in this first half. Winnipeg in front 11-3. Olisic stands at his own 17-yard line for this third down kick. Better kick this time. It's taken by Shorten at the 38. Nowhere to go. And he is stopped at the 40-yard line. He pitched the ball out to Ken Petway, but the whistle had already gone after that 41-yard kick by Hank Olisic. Elliott and Disco were there to make the tackle on Paul Shorten. Toronto Argonauts have to be a little concerned with their inability to move the football against this Winnipeg defense.
I think they're giving Willie Pless a hard time. You know, you think you kick the ball, run down the field, and make the tackler. But you always have somebody hitting you. They hit him about 5 times going downfield to try to keep him from getting in on that tackle.
Salisbury to the flat quickly to James Murphy. And Murphy takes it up to the 50-yard line. That'll be very close to a first down.
There was never any doubt about this one. The way Salisbury took the ball, just stepped nice back easily, nice fluid release, one-on-one coverage. Murphy's going to win the battle. Big first down for the Bombers.
They spot the ball at the 51-yard line. 5:04 remaining in the half. Murphy this time lines up wide right. Ken Winey off to the left. Fake to Buster Rhymes, and Rhymes will get a gain of about 6 yards. They fake to Tony Johns or Tim Jesse, and then gave the ball to Buster Rhymes on the reverse with the Winnipeg slot back picking up about 6.
David Black and Nick Castalia pulled like they were going to lead the play the other way, and then all of a sudden they just turn and come back. But the defenders were waiting on them, but they still get 7 yards. So it keeps you out of the second and long situations, and the Bombers have things going their way right now.
This is only the 3rd game in the CFL for Buster Rhymes. He made his debut in the league final against the BC Lions. Terry Cochran into the ball game, running on 2nd and 4. He'll be about a half-yard short, it would appear, depending upon where they spot the ball. Willie Pless and Gerald Bayless made the tackle. Salisbury is indicating to the bench just how far the Bombers have to go on 3rd down, and it looks as though Mike Riley is going to gamble. He sends in the short yardage unit.
Yeah, he got right to the 50. He needed to get almost to the 51. He's about exactly a half a yard short.
3:42, the time remaining in the half. The fans come alive on this 3rd down gamble by Winnipeg. Salisbury keeps. He should have it. And that's an important first down for Winnipeg, operating against the wind in this 2nd quarter to use up more time on that clock, and of course keep alive the possibility of putting it in the end zone as well.
That's what the ultimate goal is, to put it in the end zone. But if they can keep making first downs, every time they make a first down, that's another minute or so off the clock. But Toronto doesn't have the ball. They make it by about the length of the football. With 3 minutes and 28 seconds, they can take it down to almost 2 minutes, and that's the key thing for them. If they put it in the end zone, that's a bonus.
3:24 of the time remaining with the clock running here in the 2nd quarter. Winnipeg with 11 first downs to just 3 for the Argos, and that's the margin by which they lead on the scoreboard. Salisbury to Terry Cochran, and Cochran is caught almost immediately by Gerald Bayless.
Well, he needed the block. They had it set pretty well. It was only a one-man screen. They didn't have many linemen out there, but Bauer just wasn't able to make the block, and they make the tackle.
3:03 is the time left in the half. So far, regular season statistics haven't been a great deal, as the Winnipeg Blue Bombers lead it by an 11-3 margin. Toronto Argonauts, during regular season play, allowed the fewest points in the entire league, just 326. But in this 2nd quarter, where the Argos had the wind at their back and hoped to do something, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have had the football. This one is almost intercepted, intended for Buster Rhymes, and knocked down by Ben Zambiazzi. Zambiazzi had a big interception against the Blue Bombers off that same man, Sean Salisbury, the first time they met here at CNE Stadium.
Well, we're going to see the pressure come. He had to throw it flat-footed, which means you don't get as much on it. Kulka puts his shoulder right into the chest, and as Obilovich told us before the game, Zambiazzi, being the veteran, knows how to play football. He's got all that experience. He was in the right place. Read it just perfect. Tried to step in front for the interception, but does knock it down.
He isn't as physical as Doug Landry, but he certainly reads very well, and he did it right there on that play. This is the 3rd down kick by Bob Cameron. Graisley goes back to the 10-yard line, nowhere to go, but out of bounds at the 13-yard line. 2:45 is the time remaining in the ball game. That was a 35-yard kick by Bob Cameron. And at the conclusion of the game, we'll be selecting, as we always do, the Foster Slogger MVP. Right now, Sean Salisbury is a definite candidate with his opening half performance.
Played it extremely well. He's played in his first half. He's mixed it up. He's run the ball occasionally. He's throwing it short. He's not greedy. He's not trying to force things. And as a result, he'll have good stats and good ball control.
Renfro on first down, going deep down the sideline. Again, he overthrew Jeff Boyd. This time, Boyd was lined up to the right against Rod Hill.
Yeah, and he would have had a lot more trouble completing this one because Rod Hill was right in his hip pocket. When he turned in to run with Jeff Boyd, he just had him right on his hip. It would have taken the perfect pass to beat him. He was in great position.
Boyd, of course, spent 5 years with Winnipeg before being traded to the Toronto Argonauts, and he was indicating earlier this week that he still has some very fond remembrances of his days in Winnipeg.
Well, you always do. You know, I mean, you're just not going to turn it off that fast. On the field, you don't remember him, but when you're getting ready to play him, you think, oh, boy, here we go again, and I know all these guys.
There's the screen, and read very well by Aaron Brown. Warren Hudson took that screen pass, but Brown read that one all the way.
You know, we hear us talking a lot about reading the play. Well, Aaron Brown dropped back out of that linebacker position, watching number 53. Now, he sees the screen coming. It's his job. Get to the ball carrier in a hurry. They can't block him because he got by the blocker so quick, and he just stuck that shoulder in there. That's good defense.
Well, we talked about the importance of the play of the Winnipeg linebackers in this ball game, and they have been doing quite a job so far this afternoon.
They're playing a little different than I've seen them play in the past. I think it's because of only having 3 of them. They're not lining up everywhere, but wherever they are, they're making their presence felt.
I think that ball was partially deflected. I think Stan Nicholas may have got a hand on it. He wears that huge cast on the left hand as the result of a broken thumb earlier in the season that put him out for about 5 games. That almost looks like a weapon, and obviously he has trouble gripping Jersey trying to make a tackle, but he, I think, may have got that big cast up on that attempted punt by Hank Olisic. Let's watch.
I would say it's a pretty good shot at getting, because of the way the ball turned, wasn't coming out with point first, it came out sideways. I'd say there's a good chance he hit it. Almost looks like one of those fake mitts, you know, those huge mitts you put on.
Well, it wasn't the hand with the cast on that he hit. That cast is probably too heavy to lift that high. He got it with his other hand.
Yeah, if he'd hit it there, he might have broke the ball. The ball would have exploded. Who do I put him in for?
Darrell Sampson helped off the field. He is the injured Winnipeg player on that 3rd down punt. Winnipeg attempting that hitch screen to James Murphy. Rodney Harding deflected it.
Well, you saw Steve Rodehuskers, number 66, the right tackle. On that particular play, Salisbury's going to throw it quick. Therefore, Rodehuskers' job is to make Harding get his hands down, and he didn't do it. Harding's big left hand comes in there and deflects the football. Didn't get his hands down, and that's what they'll do to you on those quick passes.
2nd and 10, Winnipeg. The ball is at the 47 of the Argos. Salisbury down the sidelines, and he's got James Murphy wide open for a Winnipeg first down at the 28.
Was a great pattern by Murphy. Salisbury had to scramble a little bit to his right because Ben Zambiazzi was after him. But when Murphy showed like he was going to go deep, Barry turned and ran, and Murphy stopped dead in his tracks, and he had no one within about 8 yards of it.
2:03 the time remaining in the opening half. Winnipeg leading by a score of 11-3. It was that great reception by James Murphy on the final play of the opening quarter that set up a 1-yard touchdown run by Tony John. Winnipeg, 1st and 10. Hand off to Tim Jesse. Jesse tries to cut back, and he's stopped by Rodney Harding after an advance of only about a yard.
You know, once you hand the ball to the running back, he picks the hole where he wants to run. They design it in practice, but the defense dictates. As he took the football, he took one look. There was no real seams anywhere, so he just picks the one he wants and gets 2 yards with it.
They spot the ball between the 26 and the 27 on the 2nd down play. Salisbury throwing deep for Buster Rhymes. The battle for the football, and neither could get back to get it as Doran Major was covering Buster Rhymes. And it will be a 3rd down play for Winnipeg.
I think for the first time we saw the wind actually play a part in a pass. Salisbury tried to lay it deep, one-on-one coverage, Rhymes on Major, but the ball just didn't get there, and they both saw it hit the ground in front of them. So you're going to try to throw, where he's the defensive guys, you're going to throw that ball away from him. No chance. It's just 5-6 yards short.
So Trevor Kennard will be attempting a field goal of 33 yards with 1:26 remaining in this opening half. Kick is wide.
They're going to get it back anyway. They're going to get a roughing the kicker call. Harding really hit Trevor Kennard.
Yes, and Trevor Kennard is limping as he heads off to that Winnipeg bench. And Rodney Harding is still down, but it is going to be a contacting the kicker. There's the indication from referee Jake Ireland. And after demonstrating that he did get hit, now Trevor Kennard jogs off the field.
Boy, Harding really got free to the inside, Don. I don't know how he missed blocking this, but boy, when he went after it and didn't get the football, he really hits him. Watch him, he's going to come from the bottom right side of the screen. He is in three. I thought he was going to block it.
Well, that was almost comical, though, the way Trevor Kennard got up. He limped so badly, you'd think he'd never make it to the sidelines. As soon as the penalty was indicated by referee Jake Ireland, Kennard started jogging to the bench.
Yeah, I was watching that. Those kickers, I tell you, they're good actors. Well, I was really surprised he didn't block that. He got in there too fast.
Well, obviously, there's not much wrong with Trevor Kennard as he continues to unlimber that kicking leg.
Lee Cameron take those laces away from the foot, moves them out of sight. And there comes number 77. He hits Kennard while the foot is in the air. That's why the 15-yard penalty, and that's why they're down around the 11-yard line.
So that takes the ball down to the 13-yard line with 1:18 remaining in this first half. Winnipeg leading by a score of 11-3. Draw play. Terry Cochran down to the 5-yard line.
Good job in that defense. The Toronto's showing them. They've got those linebackers away from the middle. You run the draw. It's up to the running back to find a hole. The offensive line gets you through. Then it's up to you. And that's about 8 yards. They're down to around the 5.
Rodney Harding is back into the ball game. Winnipeg facing a 2nd and 2 play at the 5-yard line. Tim Jesse, the second man through. He'll have the first down to the 1-yard line.
Well, that's a good job by Terry Cochran on the lead block. He took on Ben Zambiazzi right on the line of scrimmage, and that allowed Jesse to cut back. Watch coming in. He's to his right now. He cuts right in behind him, and you see number 38 going to the ground, and that gets Jesse through down to the 1-yard line.
Winnipeg with that short yardage offense in there. The ball is actually a little closer to the 2-yard line. That's where they ruled that Jesse touched down. It's Winnipeg, 1st and goal. Second man, Jesse tries to go over the top following the lead block of Terry Cochran. He's going to be stopped short of the goal line. 36 seconds remaining in this first half.
That time on the lead block by Cochran, he could have taken a choice of 2 blue jerseys. Zambiazzi and Harding were both there. That forced Jesse to leave his feet before he wanted to. That's why he only got 1 yard. But this time he's got a shot at going over.
Tony Johns into the ball game, replacing Terry Cochran. 2nd and goal, this time from the 1-yard line. Salisbury keeps. He isn't going to make it.
I believe it was Ben Zambiazzi, the guy that hit him. Salisbury did not get down behind those shoulder pads. And boy, did Zambiazzi straighten him up.
Now it's a 3rd down gamble for Winnipeg from the 1. 3rd and goal. A timeout being indicated by Mike Riley with 19 seconds remaining.
That's a good call. This is a big play. You know, you haven't used your timeout. You're on the 1-yard line. Let's talk it over. You give the instructions to Salisbury, and he'll relay him in the huddle. But this is a big, big play for both teams. Right here, you saw Zambiazzi, number 38, bounce him backwards, and then the rest of the blue jerseys come and get him. Take a look. The quarterback get down behind those shoulder pads. He didn't get low enough, and they bounce him back, and then everybody else will get you. You've got to get that first step forward.
Salisbury almost got whiplash from that hit as he tried to go in, and it looked as though he had that opening when he was hit by Zambiazzi and driven back. Salisbury conferring with his head coach, Mike Riley. The Argo defensive captain came over to talk to Bob Obilovich for this Very important third down play at the Toronto 1-yard line. Johns and Jesse behind Salisbury. Jesse, the ball carrier. No, he didn't get it.
That is a great goal line stand by the Argonauts. When you have 2 shots from the 1 and you keep a team out of the end zone, that is good defensive football.
Boy, when you talk about turning points in a ball game, this could very definitely be the big one because only 14 seconds remain in the half. Had the Bombers been able to put it in the end zone, that would have given them a tremendous lift going into the dressing room.
Team tried to go up. He didn't get there. 26, Selwyn Green got a little bit of him, but that was a heck of a stand inside by Baldwin and the rest of them. Great stand. You ought to be happy.
Doesn't really show a great deal of emotion, but on the other side, Mike Riley does. Initially, I think Riley felt that Jesse had broken the plane by going up and over, but that was not the case.
Well, as you say, Don, when we look back on this football game later, this could have been a big, big turning point in the football game. As you said, 14 seconds, chance to go into the locker room with a big lead. Now you're going to go in with the 8-point lead. They're going to, 4 seconds, they're just going to kneel down and get this over with and get in there and talk it over.
This should be the final play of the half. Gilbert Renfro quite content to go down and head to the dressing room with his team trailing by just 8. It could have been a 15-point halftime differential. 11-3, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers lead the Argonauts. Stay tuned for Inside the CFL.
For 1988. Last year's thriller in Vancouver was perhaps the most sensational championship game ever played. The 76 Grey Cup Classic promises to be as entertaining. The festivities start Wednesday with the official kickoff party. Thursday morning features the Board of Trade breakfast. In the evening, a new Miss Grey Cup will be crowned. The Shenley Awards take place Friday as the league honors its best. It's also Extravaganza Night, Canada's biggest indoor party with country music's Family Brown, the Laser Light Show, the talented Janetta, and the ever-popular Rompin' Ronnie Hawkins. The colorful Grey Cup Parade runs Saturday afternoon. That evening, the Grey Cup Dance and Casino highlights Doug and the Slugs. And at the Congress Center, the Grey Cup Dinner showcases impressionist André-Philippe Gagnon. And, of course, Sunday is game day at Lansdowne Park. For event and ticket information, call 613-594-GREY.
CBC Sports presents Inside the CFL.
The Argos favored in the Eastern Conference Final, but they trail the Bombers 11-3 at the half. Welcome to Inside the CFL. You could argue that as the Argos go, so goes the rest of the CFL because the Argos occupy the CFL's biggest market. But it's hard to make the argument stand up when you consider the current edition of the Toronto Argonauts, perhaps even better than the one that won the Grey Cup back in 1983, is averaging 10,000 fewer fans per game and 20,000 fewer fans per game than the Argos of the late 70s, which seemed to lose on an almost regular basis. No one more perplexed by it than Argo general manager Leo Cahill. Leo, do you have any thoughts as to why Toronto fans have not embraced a pretty good football team?
Well, I think we should talk about the positive thing, and that's that we've got our best crowd that we've had all year out here today. And as far as the crowds this season, I think that it's just a case of people waiting for that stadium next year. And, you know, we have had a good football team. We've had some things happen to us that kept the crowds away this year, but I think that in the off-season we're going to sell at least 30,000 season tickets. I really feel that way, Scott.
What about the lifting of TV blackouts and why the apparent reluctance to lift the blackout for, say, this game, which would allow you to showcase a good football team to Southern Ontario?
Well, I think that myself, Mr. Sazio, I think everybody would like to lift the blackout if lifting the blackout was practical at this time. But it's a league matter when you get to the playoffs. We don't pay the players' salaries. Everything is done by the league, and the league just felt that for this football game that keeping the way it was best. But, you know, I can see down the road where lifting the blackout could have maybe propagated another million people watching the game and being interested in the game, and maybe that would help. But I'm really gratified and very happy about the crowd so far if we could just start playing a little better football.
Your personal situation, Leo, you're general manager of a team that was in the Grey Cup last year, the Eastern Final this year. Your contract is running out. Do you expect to be back with the Argonauts?
Well, I don't anticipate not being back. It's up to the people that are in charge, have me back or not have me back. But I think we've done a good job. I think we have a winning combination with our football team. And all things being equal, I certainly expect to be back with the Argonauts.
All right, Leo Cahill, we offer you congratulations on a great season, no matter what happens in the second half of this game.
We didn't want to talk about the first half, huh, Scott?
Inside the CFL returns in just a moment. Stay with us. Winnipeg in front by 8, and there isn't much doubt the Bombers would not be in the Eastern Conference Final were it not for quarterback Sean Salisbury, who ignited the team when he joined the Bombers midway through the season. Who is he, and why are they saying all these nice things about him? John Evans reports for Inside the CFL.
Last Sunday, Bombers quarterback Sean Salisbury was back in control. He led his team to victory, and that's something he used to do with regularity. You see, back in 1984, Sean Salisbury was the quarterback for the University of Southern California Trojans, a team that went on to win a Rose Bowl. But after a couple of years of riding the bench in the National Football League, Salisbury and his young wife Kim moved to Canada, as others had done before him.
When I was thinking of the CFL, Warren Moon, Joe Theismann came right to my mind, and obviously an opportunity to play. When I was in the States and playing in the NFL, backing up for 2 years, it became a point where I started to become stale, I thought, and wanted a chance to play some football.
This picture of Sean and Kim by the Pacific Ocean hangs in their Winnipeg living room. It's a long way from snowbound Manitoba, but the young couple is adjusting.
It was very different coming up here. Didn't know anything about it. I'm from Colorado, so I'm used to the Rockies, and I go to school in Utah, so I'm used to mountains and all this flatland. It was different, very different.
Being from Southern California, and I've also lived in Phoenix, Arizona, snow hasn't spent too many days in my life, to be honest with you, but I kind of like it right now. I could see how it could get a little tiring for the people who have to stay in it for 4 and 5 months or 3 months, but playing in it on Sunday or last week, I enjoyed it. It was kind of fun for me. And it's new and it's exciting, but believe me, 75 degrees back home always looms large in my life.
Is this camera going? Yeah. Me. I do the cooking around here.
Wrong.
All the good food.
Wrong. I do the cooking.
Sean and Kim have been married less than 3 months. They weren't planning on a wedding until next year, but they moved it ahead when Sean opted for the CFL.
We were originally planning on getting married in January, and we moved it up just because we didn't want to have to be away from each other, especially when he's up in Canada. You know, I know that I'm doing this for him, and I know that it's important to him for me to be up here with him.
Now that Kim and their dog Rusty have joined them in Winnipeg, what's next on the agenda?
My goal now is to win a championship, and as far as what I'm going to do in the future as far as playing football, I'll wait and see. But I believe with an opportunity given to me that I can perform with the best of them at any level. And if I can continue to improve and work hard and during the season and the off season with such great players around me, that I believe that it's unlimited what the human body can achieve, and it's unlimited, I believe, what I can achieve.
For Inside the CFL, this is John Evans reporting.
It was difficult for Sean Salisbury to function effectively in 2 late season losses to the Toronto Argonauts because he couldn't get any time to throw the ball. But, Don, he is getting it today.
He's getting time indeed, Scott. At one point, he had completed 11 straight passes, but the play he might best remember on, the 2nd and 3rd down goal line stand that the Toronto Argonauts came up with, preventing Winnipeg from getting into the end zone at the end of the half.
Yeah, right now, that's the key to this football game. The 11-3 lead was nice, but when you're down to that 1-yard line, you've got to get in. What's the lead play? Here comes Jesse. The block is made by Cochran on Zampiazzi. Jesse has to go over the top, and he gets it down close. But from there, the Toronto Argonaut defense made the play. Here comes the quarterback sneak. They stop Salisbury on that. They come right back, give it to the big guy again. He doesn't get in. So the Argonauts going into the locker room go in on a high. Winnipeg goes in a little bit low. If they'd have scored right there, this game could have been out of reach.
That would have made it an 18-3 ball game with the convert by Kennard. And as you say, a 15-point spread might have just been too much for the Argos to overcome. Scott?
Well, Don, next week it's the final stop on the road to the Grey Cup. We'll be in Ottawa for the Classic itself. And our Grey Cup Sunday begins at 1 o'clock Eastern with our countdown show with Brian Williams. And then at 2:30, Don Whitman, Ron Lancaster, Steve Armitage, and I will have the game itself with kickoff scheduled for 3 o'clock. So CBC is your Grey Cup network coast to coast. the place to be 1 week today. Will the Argos advance or will it be the Bombers? We'll find out in the second half of this game. Stay with us.
On CBC. Brought to you by Carling O'Keefe, brewers of Foster's Lager, the Golden Throat Charmer. Petro-Canada dealers and agents. Our energy is Canada. And by Priority Post EMS Courier, your better business connection in Canada and around the world.
For a team that led the league during regular season play in total offense, the Toronto Argonauts were stymied in that first half, just 77 yards. Now the Argos averaged 368 yards per game. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers during regular season play were last. They averaged just 285 yards. They have 215 through the first half. They also had the ball almost twice as long as the Argonauts during that opening 30 minutes.
I think when you get to this stage of the game, an Eastern final, defense is what wins for you. You say 2 and out. Defense goes in, shut them down, and the offense has controlled the football. So that's been the key.
The Argos will have the wind as Ryan Hansen on the kickoff return brings the ball back to the 45-yard line. A 10-yard return.
That was a big decision that was made there. Winnipeg deferred their choice till the second half, and when the captain went out there, he took the end, which means Toronto gets the wind and the ball. So the Bombers right now have a lot of confidence in their defense.
And they will have the advantage of the wind in the fourth quarter. And you talk to any coach and any quarterback, they always like to have that wind going home.
Oh, boy, you got to have it. You got to know where you stand.
So this is where the Toronto Argonauts have to make hay in this third quarter, and they try and go deep to Jeff Boyd, but again, he was overthrown.
On every pattern, Gilbert Renfro has thrown downfield further than 20 yards. The ball has been high, and again, it was high. The Argonauts were asking for pass interference over there, but that ball was just thrown over the head of the receiver.
The Argonauts had to get a lift from that goal line stand to end the first half. Now they have to try and capitalize on it.
Well, when you look at the statistics of theirs in the first half, that's the key. The defense did their job. Their job, they shut them down when they had to. The offense has to move the football. The downs thing broke. They had to change it over here. They're making a change on the sidelines.
So they want that 20-second clock reset.
And the downs marker broke. For some reason, the kid had to go get the reserve one. That's why the timeout.
So it's 2nd and 10 from the 45-yard line. John Conjemi, the backup quarterback this afternoon, although the Argos have all 3 quarterbacks dressed, with Danny Barrett playing that wide receiver position. Here comes the blitz. And down goes Gilbert Renfro back at the 35-yard line.
Well, that's the way you rush a quarterback. They did a good job downfield, but that pocket collapsed from all sides. It wasn't one man that was there. When Renfro went down, there were about 3 white jerseys on him, so the pocket just collapsed all around him. Watch. Ball's a little wet. He's looking for a dry spot. He tries to throw. No one there. Look at it. They had him covered front and both sides. That's the way you rush a quarterback. Collapse it on him.
Well, the Bombers were concerned about the loss of linebacker Greg Battle, but Ramel Andrews has played a very significant role in their defensive scheme this afternoon. Third down kick, bounces away from James Jefferson. He has to retreat to the 20-yard line. Paul Shorten, I should say, he's going to lose even more. Back to the 12-yard line.
You know, when you hear coaches say to punt returners, don't let the ball hit the ground, they lost 25 yards on the ball hitting the ground.
That was a 50-yard kick and a loss of 11 on the attempted return for a 61-yard Argonaut game. Grey Cup Sunday on CBC television a week from today. Countdown to kickoff beginning at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, live from Lansdowne Park in Ottawa. We hope you'll be joining us for all the excitement of this 76th Grey Cup game from the nation's capital 1 week from today on CBC television, your Grey Cup network coast to coast. Salisbury almost intercepted. Don Moan deflected it and tried to haul it in. Had he been able to grab that ball, he would have gone unmolested into the end zone.
They put 3 receivers to the right side of the field, and all they wanted to try to do is just stop the second receiver and throw it to him and get 4 yards. But Donnie Moan's just standing there, jumps up and deflects it, and as you say, if he picks it off, yeah, anyone, I think we could have scored from there, Don.
2nd and 10. Great catch by Buster Rhymes. Boy, did that get Winnipeg out of a hole.
They needed it. They needed a big play when you're backed up down there going against the wind. You've got to get a couple first downs. That's an offensive goal of every team, not to have to kick from your end zone. That's a big catch by Rhymes, but it bounced off his hands, and then he reached and grabbed it before it hit the ground.
12:49, the time remaining in this third quarter. Will it be the Blue Bombers or the Argonauts representing the Eastern Conference in the Grey Cup 1 week from today? Later this afternoon, the Edmonton Eskimos entertain the BC Lions to determine the Western representative. Salisbury throwing to the sidelines, and I think he was simply throwing that one away as he was being chased. Ken Winey was in the area, but it was Don Baldwin in pursuit of the Winnipeg quarterback.
That was a screen pass all the way. You saw the lineman make their block and then move out to the right to form the screen, but the Argonaut defense read it. Salisbury has nowhere to throw the ball. His wide receiver is going downfield to block. He made a wise choice. He threw it to an open area in the vicinity of the receiver.
2nd and 10, Winnipeg. The ball is at the Bombers' 38-yard line. Incomplete. Jesse, the intended receiver. Winnipeg will send out the punting unit.
On that particular kind of a play, Salisbury takes his look downfield, doesn't like it. Argonauts drop deep. Even if he catches the football, he's not going to make the first down. So the only thing is they have to punt from about 5 yards deeper. But that's good defense. Force them to give you the ball back.
Again, the Argonauts line up Gerald Bayless and Rodney Harding on either shoulder of the center, Dan Wicklum. Wicklum was a question mark. He had been hurt, and there was some doubt as to whether he would be able to play in this game. The Argos trying to pressure him. Another good kick by Cameron into the wind. Brazeley waits for it at the 30. Brazeley is stopped at the 36-yard line. Good coverage by the Bombers' special team, with Paul Clatney there to make the tackle after a 43-yard kick by Bob Cameron. 5 remaining in the third quarter. The Argos take over. They are 1st and 10 at their own 36.5-yard line. Winnipeg leading 11-3. Jet Boyd comes wide to the right. He's lined up against Rod Hill. Intended for Warren Hudson, incomplete.
Well executed play. A little bit of a play action pass. Hold those linebackers, and boy, they had the ideal situation. Hudson in the flat with nobody on him. He just didn't hold on to the football.
Gilbert Renfro, the all-star quarterback this year in the East, but Sean Salisbury has had the more impressive statistics in this Eastern Championship. Winnipeg trying to go after Renfro. He has time to throw. Oh, what an excellent play as it was knocked away by Ken Petway just at the last minute. He got that hand up in front of Darrell Smith.
You know, usually when you see a receiver and a defender running down the field and the ball is thrown back, as you will see, now Darrell Smith and him are stride for stride. When the ball's thrown behind the defensive back, the receiver will stop. But Petway does a heck of a job, gets that head and shoulders around and throws that right hand up and gets the football. It's good defense.
Well, you talked about what that Winnipeg defensive unit is attempting to do, 2 and out, and they did it to the Argos again in this third quarter as Hank Alisic prepares to kick on 3rd down. It's blocked by Rod Hill. Loose ball. Rod Hill trying to pick it up and go for the end zone. He'll score. Rod Hill blocks the punt and scores the touchdown. He was the man who blocked the punt earlier in the year here in a 36-13 loss when the teams were fighting for first place. This one could be much more important to the Blue Bombers scheme in this 1988 season.
Well, the snap of the football took Alisic out to his right. Watch it. He has to move this way to get it. Now he can't step up in behind the wall. See, that ball should be gone by now. Selwyn Drain thought he blocked him long enough, but because of Alisic on the run, he didn't. And when Rod Hill come free, he got those hands up. He's the guy that scores the touchdown. Well, they didn't get the one at the end of the half, but a big, big play in the third quarter.
Well, Winnipeg, for some reason, has had success in blocking. Attempted punch by Hank Alisic since he has been a member of the Toronto Argonauts. Advancement by Rod Hill and the convert by Kennard make it 18-3. Winnipeg kickoff after this. Winnipeg in front 18-3 after that block punt by Rod Hill and the recovery in the end zone as Trevor Kennard kicks off. Carl Brazeley takes it at the 30-yard line. Brazeley has nowhere to go as Michael Allen was downfield to make the tackle at the 40-yard line. Let's take another look at that block punt by number 10, Rod Hill, coming from the bottom of the screen.
We saw Illicik have to move about 4 yards away from that hash mark where the ball was. That means now you must stay with your block a little longer. Normal kicking time's around 2.5 seconds. Drain figures that was enough time. He turned Hill loose, but because of the snap to Illicik, he was able to block it.
First and 10, Toronto. The ball between the 40 and 41-yard line. Kangemi steps up and is smothered at the 40-yard line. Pardon me, Renfro, not Kangemi. I was thinking that we might get to see Kangemi if Renfro is unable to get this Toronto Argonaut offense moving, and Gilbert Renfro is still the quarterback. The initial pressure by Ramel Andrews coming from the outside, but at the moment the hero for Winnipeg is cornerback Rod Hill. Yes, it is Renfro going down again, this time in the grasp of Ramel Andrews. You know, Winnipeg tried to disguise the fact all week that they were going to put Ramel Andrews into the ball game in that linebacking position vacated by the injury to Greg Battle. They wanted to try and do some different things, give the Argos some different looks, and it appears they are confusing Toronto this afternoon.
Well, the big thing about it is that in the past, they've had a linebacker rushing from the position that Ramel Andrews is. And when you get a guy that's 260 pounds, it's a little bit bigger than a linebacker. So you go one-on-one with a linebacker, but sometimes you got to worry about Andrews. So they have to bother him a little bit. Another bad snap.
And it goes off the side of Illicik's foot. Petway picks it up and steps out of bounds at the 40-yard line. 9:32 is the time remaining in the third quarter. That time a 40-yard kick by Hank Illicik. Winnipeg in front, 18-3. This program is copyrighted and is strictly for the private use of our audience. Any reproduction, retransmission, or exhibition in whole or in part without the express written consent of the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation is strictly prohibited. Winnipeg first and 10 from the 40-yard line. Tim Jesse, the ball carrier. He's upended by Don Moen, the linebacker. It was a Moen fumble recovery after the ball bounced away from Tim Jesse that ignited an Argos second half outburst in the first game on October 23rd that led to a 36-13 Toronto victory. Moen took the ball on a bounce and rambled 62 yards for a touchdown, with Winnipeg at the time late in the third quarter leading 10-8. Second and 9 from the 41. Salisbury had better hurry. He gets it away just in time. 22nd clock was about to run out. This time, Salisbury is tracked down by Glenn Kolka and Gerald Bayless.
And the original pressure from Rodney Harding. They tried to run a double out to the wide side of the field, and when he couldn't do it, they were covered out there. He had to pull it down and hold it longer than he should. When that happens, you're going to get the backside. They're going to get you. Bayless was there.
8:23 remaining in the third quarter. Winnipeg in front by 15. Let's take a look at it from the reverse angle.
You see, he wants to throw it right now. That's when it's got to be gone. Now he has to pull it down. He steps inside Harding, but that allows that backside rush. Bayless and Baldwin to get there.
This time Cameron's kick hangs up in the wind. Picked up by Carl Brazeley. There's a penalty flag in the play. I think Benny Thompson was trapped inside that 5-yard area. He attempted to vacate the zone, which he did, or came very close to it at least. Then he should have stayed out of the play.
Yeah, probably if he stays out of the play, they don't even call it. You know, that's the way they usually interpret the rule.
That kick only 28 yards by Cameron.
No yard. Winnipeg number 35. First down.
Well, they didn't call Benny Thompson. They called Dan Wicklum.
That's the bit. See that gain right here, the referee walking in the third quarter, 7 minutes, 56 seconds left. You see Renfro's stats aren't real good, but the whole entire offense for the Argonauts in this quarter are minus 11 with 1 block punt and 1 bad snap and a bad kick. So, I mean, so far, Winnipeg has shut them down.
It's impossible. Don't invent that stuff. That's what they always do.
Coach Mike Rowley not happy with that call, and it's Jake Vaughn being assisted to the Toronto Argonaut bench. He works on special teams and is the backup Argo safety. The ball is at the Winnipeg 49 with that no yards call. 7:42 remaining in the third quarter. Intended for Lorenzo Graham, it was deflected. I think Mike Gray got a hand on the throw. They were trying to set up the screen. And Winnipeg has done an excellent job of putting pressure on Renfro all afternoon.
The big thing about that play is that lineman, in this case Michael Gray, makes the read in a hurry. When you swing the back out there and try to get that moving screen in front of him, the lineman is not ever going to sack the quarterback. So what he did is he stopped and got the hands up, and he's able to deflect it. That's a good job for reading on the run.
Barrett wide to the right. Intended for Barrett, covered by Rod Hill.
He was really covered. That's good defense. When Barrett broke to the inside at about 14 yards, Hill was right on him, step for step, and batted it right out of the air.
I think at times Renfro may be a little confused this afternoon by the way Winnipeg is lining up defensively. Sometimes they drop Romel Andrews back into that linebacker position. Then they'll line up the 2 linebackers outside the end and rush the 2 of them, blitz the 2 of them from the outside.
This has been a big play for them, too. They haven't been in the last, another bad snap. That's 3 in a row.
And this one is going to go into the end zone. And Hank Olisic will be credited with a single point on this third down kick, a kick of 50 yards.
The one good thing about that snap, though, it was high, but it was in the protected area.
6:58 is the time remaining in the third quarter. Blaine Schmidt, who was named the Argos Special Teams Player of the Year, centers the ball on third down punts, and on his last 3 snaps, he's had some problems getting the ball back to Hank Olisic. That pass in and out of the hands of Randy Faby. It will be 2nd and 10 Winnipeg. At the Winnipeg bench, the Bomber players taking advantage of those propane heaters to keep the hands warm and perhaps even dry them off under the wet conditions at CNE Stadium.
I think drying him off is the big thing right now. Trying to stay dry on a day like today is just about impossible.
Ken Winey lines up wide left. James Murphy to the right. Intended for Randy Faby. He was being covered by Selwyn Drain.
One of the few times today that the Argonauts have come after him with a full-out blitz. They had everybody rushing and took him on in the secondary man-to-man. Just wasn't able to complete it.
Jake Vaughn is heading to the Argo dressing room. The son of former CFL star Kay Vaughn. We were talking to Jake just prior to the game as to his off-season plans. He said he was going to spend a couple of months in Australia on a holiday.
They may change.
They may change indeed. Bob Cameron's third down punt. Darrell Smith covers it. He can't do anything but go down immediately at the 47-yard line. A 33-yard kick that time by Bob Cameron. Gilbert Renfro getting some final instructions from Coach Bob Obilovich.
Big thing Darrell Smith did is just what coaches like to see. He caught the football. Didn't gain an inch, but he didn't lose any yards chasing the ball backwards either.
6:12, the time remaining in the third quarter. Winnipeg leading 18-4. Jeff Boyd wide to the left, lined up against James Jefferson. This was anticipated to be one of the key matchups in the course of this ball game. Here's the reverse with Paul Nastasia. Played very well by James West. He fought off the block, stood his ground, and simply went underneath the Argo slot back on the reverse.
Boy, he did a great job because when you say fought off the blocker was right there with him. West threw him off with his hands and dropped down to his knees, and he's underneath to make the tackle. That's good defense.
Second and 10. The Argos at the 47-yard line. Here comes the blitz. They pick it up, but Ronald Andrews managed to get loose, forcing Renfro out of the pocket. The pass thrown to the sidelines, and there's going to be a late hit against Michael Gray. .5:16 the time remaining.
Roughing the passer. Winnipeg number 52.
Well, Winnipeg, as we mentioned earlier, has had a proclivity for foolish penalties this season, and Mike Riley won't be happy with this one.
No, the reason for he gets the penalty, he hit him up high, and then he wrapped those arms around the head. If he'd have just reached out with his hands, and then just pulled him down easy, fine. But when you come across the head, you're going to get called almost every time.
So rather than yield the football on a third down punt, the Argos retain possession at the Winnipeg 48-yard line. Lorenzo Graham is hit immediately by Michael Gray. That will atone for that previous miscue.
Well, when you get a guy mad, he really stuck to running back that time, but he's played a heck of a football game today because he's getting to that quarterback. He's getting pressure, and that's what you want from them guys up front.
Well, I doubt there were many who thought that the Winnipeg defensive unit could shut down the league's most high-powered offense, but the Bombers have done it.
They've done a great job of it, too, and their offense has helped them by keeping the football away from them. When your offense isn't on the field, it's hard to get things going.
Time count violation against Gilbert Renfro.
When you start having that, when you get to the Eastern Final, things, they have you a little bit confused. They've played too many football games, and the Bombers 2 times in the last 4 weeks. They should know what they're going to do.
I still think some of the things the Bombers are doing with Ronald Andrews are causing problems for Gilbert Renfro in reading that Bomber defense.
Well, they got to be doing something different than Gilbert was anticipating, and anytime you're doing that, you've got him confused, and right now he is confused. And they're getting pressure on him, too, and everybody figured the pressure would be the other way, the Argonauts on Winnipeg.
Renfro, no problems that time as he picks out the open receiver, and Dwight Edwards has a first down at the Winnipeg 37-yard line.
See, I think that's a good call because the guy that they've gone after most of the day has been James Jefferson. They've tried to beat him deep. This time, you get him backed off and it cut underneath it. So you see nobody there. Look, when Dwight Edwards comes to the inside, there's not one person between the quarterback and the receiver. That's the man you want to throw to.
4 minutes remaining in the third quarter. First and 10, Toronto. They are at the Winnipeg 37-yard line. Lorenzo Graham trying to run the ball to the 34-yard line and no further. Michael Gray made the tackle again.
Only bad thing about that, they're getting almost 4, but they're still in a passing situation. So far, the second down conversion rate for Toronto hasn't been what they would like it. The Winnipeg defense has done a good job on those passing situations.
Second and 7, Toronto. The ball is at the Winnipeg 34-yard line. Renfro to the sidelines. Wide open, Jeff Boyd, first down.
That time, Renfro read the defense perfectly. He read the zone defense. He looked inside and throws the linebacker and then threw it to the sideline, and Boyd's wide open. He did a good job that time. Watch him look around. All right, he sees the linebackers drop. He knows it's a zone. He looks to the side of the field. He picks. Standing on the sideline as Boyd makes the catch.
First and 10, Toronto from the 21-yard line. They've attempted to go to Boyd deep a couple of times. He's been overthrown. The pitch to Lorenzo Graham. Lorenzo Graham gets a couple of blocks, but then getting through to make the tackle is Delbert Fowler.
Fowler's a big physical linebacker. They're glad to have him back in there because Dan Wicklund did a great job for him all year, but when you're the size he is and not used to playing as many games, like he come out of Guelph last year playing 8 games. This year he's already played 18 plus 2, so he'd be in his 3rd year university by now. But Fowler's the guy they want in there when the going gets thick. It's heavy right now and they need it.
Another second and 7 situation from the Winnipeg 18-yard line. Darrell Smith in motion across the formation. Here comes the pressure from the outside. The pass for Jeff Boyd. Penalty flag against James Jefferson.
The ball was thrown high that time because of the rush coming from the outside on Gilbert Renfro on the halfback blitz. Delbert Fowler, coming from the outside, forced the ball high, but he had the one-on-one cover.
Winnipeg number 20 in the end zone. First down, 1 yard line.
The bad thing about this, if you think back to it, was a roughing the passer call that kept this drive alive. You see the ball go, come up over the top of him. The referee ruled that he went on his back. Not one of the greatest calls I've ever seen, but close enough to be called.
But as you said, Ron, when you look back, that roughing the passer call kept it alive. Lorenzo Graham trying to dive in. They signal touchdown. There's also a penalty flag. And the touchdown will stand.
The rain really coming down now. Wow.
Well, the Argo fans haven't had a great deal to cheer about this afternoon, but they have come alive with the touchdown by Lorenzo Graham, and there's the point after by Lance Chomik. And now it's a 7-point differential. Winnipeg leading 18-11 with 2:01 remaining in this third quarter.
Well, the defensive interference call in the end zone was close. But the big thing that the Winnipeg club will be most upset with was the roughing the passer call, because that was second down. They'd have had to punt the football. There would have been no problem. You'd have had the ball in the hands of your offense instead of allowing them to get a drive going.
Well, it's not celebration time yet for either side. Still 2:01 remaining in this third quarter. The winning team, of course, will represent the East in the Grey Cup game a week from today at Lansdowne Park in Ottawa.
Right now, the Toronto Argonauts need to get this kick down there and get it stopped. We're going to see Lorenzo Graham try to go over the top, but when he falls into the end zone. But with 2 minutes left, they need to shut him down in 2 plays, force Winnipeg to punt against the wind.
Olisic will hammer it deep. Taken by Jefferson at the 5-yard line. Winnipeg setting up the return to the right. And in there to penetrate the blocking is Tony Visco after a 22-yard return. Eight plays, 67 yards for the Toronto Major. And again, we re-emphasize how costly that roughing the passer penalty was against Winnipeg on a second down pass that had fallen incomplete.
You know, we're talking to Mike Riley before the game, and that's exactly what he said. He didn't want to see any of those today, and you know, that could have turned this game around. We're going to have to see what happens.
Sideline pattern to James Murphy. And Murphy is wrapped up immediately by Ed Berry. Berry joined the Argos late in the season, replacing the injured Carl Brazeley on the corner. Coach Bob Abilovich feels that with Berry on one side, Reggie Pleasant on the other, he has the best corners he has had in his 7 seasons with the Argos.
Well, most times when you see a guy like Brazeley come back off the injured list, and he's a good football player, and make no mistake about that, you'd assume he'd step right in. Not today, not with Ed Berry in there.
Second down for Winnipeg. Pass this time to Ken Winey for the first down. Out to the 41-yard line. Ed Berry made the tackle. They're flip-flopping. Winey and James Murphy. That time they sent Winey off to the right side.
Good job, too. They put the 3 receivers over there, which will guarantee you one-on-one coverage, and then they just go down and stop. Catch the football, take what you can get. Don't be greedy, because with 46 seconds, now they can punt against the wind, or with the wind if they have to.
Hand off to Tim Jesse. Jesse gets out to the 45-yard line, stopped there by Ben Zambiazzi. It will be 2nd and 6, Winnipeg at the 45. Winey hasn't had a bad afternoon for Winnipeg. 5 receptions for 44 yards.
Not when you think he came into the game with 2 receptions on the entire season. I'd say he's played pretty well for them.
And he's made some of those catches on key second down plays. The rain falling much heavier now than at any time during the afternoon. A low throw It was intended on the sidelines for Randy Faby, incomplete, but that is also the final play of the third quarter. So Winnipeg on third down to start the fourth will be kicking with the win.
Stadium in Toronto, where the November monsoons continue to fall. Whatever happens in the final 15 minutes of this game doesn't matter to Jake Vaughn because his season is over. The Argo defensive back has broken his left leg, the main bone in his left leg, so whenever the offseason begins for the Argos, Vaughn will need a good portion of it to recover. Don?
Well, that is definitely disappointing news for Jake Vaughn. And the Toronto Argonauts. Third down kick by Bob Cameron. Braisley takes it at the 25-yard line and is upended at the 31. Benny Thompson was downfield to make the tackle. He came up with that football after a 48-yard kick, but the whistle had already gone. Scott talked about the monsoon, and it really appears as though a squall has blown in off Lake Ontario. This will be the final football game in the CFL to ever be played at CNE Stadium. Some might say a rather fitting valedictory as the Argos bid goodbye to exasperation by the lake, as it has sometimes been called, and prepare to move into the Dome next year. Lorenzo Graham was tripped up by Ramel Andrews. He got a hand in there to pull down the Argo running back.
Well, we talked about Ramel Andrews at the beginning of the game, what they were going to do with him. They were going to move him around and have him rush. Now you see him at the wide side of the field, coming down hard. He's blocked, gets up, and he's there to make the tackle on Graham when he cuts back to the inside, and that's where he should be.
2nd and 5, Toronto. The Argos operating against that wind now. Renfro, incomplete. He was looking for Dwight Edwards, who was being covered by Benny Thompson. Edwards and Thompson exchanged some words and do a little pushing and shoving, but nothing more serious develops.
He's the primary receiver on that. When they sprint to the wide side of the field, the outside receiver, in that case, Edwards was the #1 receiver. He'd have had to throw a heck of a strike to get it in there. There were white jerseys all around.
And you know, at this stage of the ball game, with that rain falling very heavily, that football gets wet and becomes more of a problem at times to kick. Melissa had a problem right there.
Like kicking a rock.
Paul Shorten picks it up at the 46 and then goes out of bounds at the 49-yard line. 13:31 is the time left to play. Winnipeg in front by 7. Those Winnipeg offensive linemen have done a pretty good job of keeping the pressure off quarterback Sean Salisbury. Many felt that with the loss of gigantic tackle Chris Walby, they would be in deep trouble, but Steve Rhoda Hutzkers has moved outside and has done a good job. He is more comfortable at tackle than at guard. Salisbury's pass is intercepted, picked off by Ben Zambiazzi.
It was a big play by Zambiazzi because really Salisbury shouldn't have thrown the football. All those receivers were the other side of the field, so anything he threw over here on a scramble, he was in trouble, but it was a heck of a catch.
The veteran linebacker comes through with a big play as Kolka was in pursuit of Salisbury.
That'll hurt you a little bit. You see Kolka chasing him. Now he turns upfield and he takes a heck of a hit. Don Bone runs into him. Debatable on who hits who on those, because you're moving forward.
While the Argos looking for a break, they have manufactured one with that interception. The ball is knocked down at the line of scrimmage.
Once again, Michael Gray get that big hand up in the air. And he's played an awful strong football game today for the Bombers, as most of the people up front, offensively and defensively, have.
Ramel Andrews playing at that linebacking position. He appears to be limping just a bit. He may be having some problems with a chronic knee ailment. As a matter of fact, a couple of years ago when he was with the Hamilton Tiger Cats and got hurt in an exhibition game in St. John's, New Brunswick, many felt that he might never play again. Intercepted by Rod Hill. Taken out of bounds by Dwight Edwards. There's a penalty flag. A roughing call will be assessed against the Toronto Argonauts. Rod Hill with a block punt and a touchdown, and now an interception, and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have reason to smile with 12:28 remaining in the game.
Winnipeg hadn't shown that defense all day. They went back into what you call cover two men deep, and then the corner sitting just deep enough to cause trouble, threw it right into the coverage and underthrew Nastasiak. And watch, it's going to hit Rod Hill right in the chest. Going to come and hit him out of bounds. Watch, coming right there. Can't hit the guy when he's out of bounds, and the flag came out immediately.
Winnipeg, 1st and 10. The ball is at the Toronto 31-yard line. Tim Jesse trying to get outside. He gets a couple of blocks. Gets the first down to the Toronto 19-yard line. The ball came loose, but the whistle had gone.
Well, if you can get that running game going now, you got everything in your favor. You got the wind with you. Get your running game going. Move this thing for a touchdown. You'll cause the Argonauts nothing but big problems for the next 11 minutes.
Mike Riley's team has the football and the lead. They're at the Toronto 20-yard line. They also have the wind in this fourth quarter, although it has died off somewhat since the rain has intensified.
Plays designed to this side of the field. When he scrambled back to his right, there's nobody over there. He really has nowhere to throw the football. See, Michael Gray's having a heck of a time. James West comes from behind. Could have called some calls. Very tough one to call it. I think he could have called that a fumble just as easily.
They're ruling that he was in the motion of throwing.
He's lucky a little bit.
So it's 2nd and 10, Toronto. Pass is complete. The receiver, Dwight Edwards, is hit almost immediately by Rod Hill.
He's going to be about a half-yard short of this first down. Where they put it might be almost a yard. They have to go for it. No, it doesn't matter whether it's 5 yards or 2 feet. They've got to go get this first down.
Well, Bob Obilovich all week said he was concerned about the game coming up against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. A lot of people thought he was simply blowing smoke because of the fact that his team had home field advantage, was 14-4 in regular season play, beat Winnipeg in the 2 meetings, and of course had the rest prior to coming into this championship game. But Obilovich, when we chatted with him this morning, said, I have legitimate concerns about how we will perform against this Winnipeg team because I think they're going to be fired up, and we cannot afford to make any mistakes. Well, a couple of early mistakes hurt the Argos, and they haven't been able to recover.
You got that exactly right. You know, it doesn't matter what your record is during the season. You have to play on game day. And if you start looking by anybody, they're going to get up and smack you. And this is what Winnipeg's done so far today, both ways.
Well, on that 3rd down gamble, the Argos just made it. James West gets down on one knee. He wants to take a closer look at it.
About as close as you can get and make it, isn't it?
Well, Winnipeg has restricted the Toronto Argonauts to just 29 yards along the ground. On the season, they yielded 139 yards per game. This time, that ball is a fumble. It's still loose. Winnipeg's Willie Fears has got it. He was deprived of a recovery the first time. This time, he will be credited with the fumble recovery, and that should be the ball game. Mike Gray is the man who stripped the ball away from quarterback Gilbert Renfro, and that could be all for the Toronto Argonauts with just 4:05 remaining.
You don't want to do anything wrong right now with a 24-11 lead. I mean, they're in field goal range right now. They'd like to have the touchdown, but all they want to do now is watch 4 minutes tick off this clock. That is a great effort again by Michael Gray. He's batted down a couple, and now he causes the fumble. Bombers are in great shape.
Tim Jesse, the ball carrier, he's hit hard by Glenn Koka. Kokamania, as he is nicknamed. He has some rather loyal fans among Toronto Argonaut supporters. Koka really put pressure on Sean Salisbury on October 30th when the teams played at Winnipeg Stadium. As a matter of fact, there's a couple of hits by Koka that put Salisbury out of the ball game. But this afternoon, that Winnipeg offensive line has done an excellent job of protecting the quarterback.
You think David Black didn't get nightmares after that football game? Well, Koka's been no factor today, and it's been David Black that's done it.
Tim Jesse, the ball carrier, again taking the clock down to 3:10, and another field goal attempt will be upcoming by Trevor Kenner. Sean Salisbury, the rookie, who got his start late in the season, an opportunity to play under some injured. Sean Salisbury, the rookie, who got his start late in the season, an opportunity to play under somewhat unusual circumstances. Tom Mickey injured his throwing arm in a pregame warm-up. Salisbury was inserted into the ball game. Nobody's been able to dislodge him since.
How many times have we said, Don, somebody doesn't get hurt, you never know how good the guy behind him is. Salisbury sure has taken the challenge and done a good job with it.
Field goal attempt by Trevor Kennard is good, 34 yards out, and Winnipeg leads 27-11 with 2:47 left here at CNE Stadium.
We're going to the Cup. We're going to Ottawa. We're going for 15 in Perth, fellas.
Yes, and at the conclusion of this ball game, we'll be selecting the Foster's Lager MVP, and I think rather obviously that player will be a member of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Last time the Bombers were in a Grey Cup game, they won it in Edmonton in 1984 when they defeated the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Renfro throwing to the sidelines, intended for Warren Hudson, incomplete. Right now, the Bombers, I think, will be content to give the Argos those short passes with only 2:33 remaining. The Winnipeg Club will be returning home tonight on Air Canada Flight 175, getting back to Winnipeg at 8:33. I think the football team would like to see the crowd out at the airport to greet them upon their return, because this has to be one of the big upsets in the CFL. Rod Hill knocked down the pass intended for Paul Nastasiuk. 2:27 is the time remaining.
You're going to throw that ball into the seam like he tried to do there. You better throw it a lot sooner than he did, because you see what the consequence will be. When that ball's in the air 20, 25, 30 yards downfield, the defensive back's got a better shot at it than your receiver.
Well, if Winnipeg hangs on to this 16-point lead, it will be the first time that it will be an all-Western Grey Cup game. East no longer meets West, even though the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are in the Eastern Conference. Here's the direct snap to Ryan Hansen on the third down gamble. He isn't going to make it.
You don't even like to have to use that, but with 2 minutes and 20 seconds left, they had to do something. They may as well let Gilbert try to throw the football, but Bombers, that's fine. Even if he'd have ran for the first down, that'd have been okay.
Great job now. Great job. How you like us now? Yeah, with a bag. Yeah, to my bag.
How do you like us now, says James West? Well, I think all those Winnipeg fans really enjoy what they have witnessed this afternoon. 2:22 remaining. You know, last week in Regina, we talked about the cold and how it didn't seem to be bothering Larry Donovan, the BC coach, at all in that semifinal win over Saskatchewan, while John Gregory appeared to be bundled up and really shivering on the sideline. The same applies this afternoon. Bob Wasilewicz looks wet, cold, over on that Toronto bench, while Mike Riley doesn't appear to be bothered by the elements at all over on the Winnipeg side of the field.
That's what's crazy about this game, isn't it? You know, when it's cold like this, one guy's freezing and one guy's frozen.
You're absolutely right, Benny Thompson. A year ago, when Winnipeg finished in first place and hosted the Eastern Final, the Argos came into Winnipeg Stadium and knocked off the Blue Bombers in an upset. This year, Winnipeg Blue Bombers come to the CNE and knock off the Toronto Argonauts in an upset of major proportions. 27-11 is the score, 1:54 the time remaining. Mike Riley's brother Pete, who attempted to become a member of the Winnipeg Football Club as a defensive back this year, came from his home in Ohio to watch this football game, and Mike's father, Bud, I'm sure, is enjoying what he's seeing at his home out in the Okanagan Valley.
That was fun talking to Pete. Pete's living in Springfield, Ohio. That's where Wittenberg University is, so we're talking about where he was living down there, find out where it is.
Field goal attempt by Trevor Kennard is wide. Carl Brazeley running it out of the end zone. And he is brought down at the 8-yard line with 1:26 left to play. Brad Tierney was there to make the tackle.
What they were trying to do really is that it's really not wise of him to run a punt or a field goal from that far in, but he was hoping to catch him sleeping and maybe taking 120 yards. They need any big play they can get. They haven't had any real big plays today from any side of the offense. The defense made a big goal line stand. That's been the day for them.
And you have to give a lot of credit to that Winnipeg offensive line. They did an excellent job of protecting quarterback Sean Salisbury, David Black, Nick Vastaya, Lyle Bauer, Bob Motley, Steve Rote at Huskers. Nick Vastaya, one of the elder statesmen of the CFL at 35 years of age. I don't know of many players who have played for both a father and a son as a head coach. Pass complete to Darrell Smith, and he is wrestled down by James West, but short of the first down at the 16-yard line. Nick Vastaya played for Bud Riley when he was a head coach in Winnipeg, and now playing for his son, Mike Riley. Mike has done something that Bud couldn't do, and that's go to a Grey Cup game.
Well, Vastaya has to be happy about that because, like I was reading an article about it, you never know when you're going to get another chance. And, a long time in the league, you got another opportunity to win one.
Another pass to Darrell Smith. They get the first down. 1:12 is the time remaining. It was 4-0 Winnipeg at the end of the first quarter. 11-3 at halftime. Winnipeg in front. The Argos outscored Winnipeg 8-7 in the third quarter, but the fourth has belonged to the Bombers. The Bombers had the option at the start of the game as to whether or not they would defer their choice to the second half. They took the win in the fourth quarter. They had that option, and it certainly has paid dividends.
You know that when they put the rule in to allow the team to defer, I think they may have to go back to actually flipping the coin. Because it used to be the home team's advantage to get the decision at halftime. They could do it. Now, when you can defer it, it goes to the visiting team, and Winnipeg made a very wise choice today.
1:06 is the time remaining. Gilbert Renfro being pursued again by Michael Gray. Throws the pass complete to Warren Hudson. And Hudson has another first down. Toronto out to the 37-yard line. 55 seconds remaining. Michael Gray has played perhaps his best game of the season for Winnipeg. He has been a factor throughout this entire ball game, constantly pressuring quarterback Gilbert Renfro.
I think he was their leader with 11 quarterback sacks, and he needs to play strong for them.
Next Saturday, we'll see the wind-up to the Royal Winter Fair, as well as the Grey Cup Parade. We'll see the exciting Grand Prix jumping from the Royal Winter Fair. Ted Reynolds and Terry Weibel will describe the action for you, and then the Grey Cup Parade as Ernie Afaganis and Colleen Jones describe it, and Ron Lancaster and Russ Jackson share the honor of being parade marshal. And then on Sunday, of course, it's the Grey Cup game. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers against either the Edmonton Eskimos or the BC Lions. They meet later this afternoon for that Western Championship. All the excitement of Grey Cup 88 coming your way on CBC television. We hope you'll be joining us. It begins at 1 o'clock Eastern Time.
Watch this game. It's been kind of funny. Paul Nastasiuk's been open in the middle maybe 4 or 5 times, and he hasn't got the football. This time he gets wide open in the middle, and they can't hit him. It's been that kind of a day for Nastasiuk. He made that one big catch to get him going early. I think it's the only one he's caught.
I anticipated that this would be a pretty good football game, but I didn't think that the Winnipeg defensive unit would be able to shut down the Argo offense the way they have.
I think a lot of people were a little bit surprised today. One, it's shutting them down, and two, how well the offensive line has blocked that Toronto defense. The big thing all week and since they played was whether the Winnipeg line can block them. Well, they did it, and they showed they could today.
Well, Mike Riley accepts congratulations over there from Jeff Boyd, who was running that pass pattern on that third down gamble. Boyd, who played under Mike Riley last year. Fine gesture to congratulate his former coach with only 38 seconds remaining. The Bombers heading for the Grey Cup in Ottawa a week from today, and I'm sure that there will be some Winnipeg fans who will now be attempting to adjust some travel plans and make arrangements to get to the nation's capital next Sunday. Over on the bench, Mike Riley gets down with the water bucket. He wouldn't even notice it.
Oh, he thought it was still raining. He didn't know the rain stopped.
But it was just raining a little heavier. Well, you have to give the Winnipeg coaching staff a lot of credit for the way they prepared for this game. Under some rather difficult circumstances this week with the snow conditions they had to contend with in Winnipeg. They were deprived of 1 day of practice by a near blizzard. Then they came to Toronto on Thursday night trying to take advantage of better conditions here in the East. And with basically just 1 day, Mike Riley and his staff certainly got this club ready for this game. Urban Bowman, Gene Gaines, Bruce Lemmerman, Bob Padilla, and Scott Schumann, the other members of the staff. This will be the final play of the game, 27-11. It will go into the record book. Winnipeg Blue Bombers upset of the Toronto Argonauts in the Eastern Conference Final, and the Bombers are headed for Ottawa. And the Grey Cup game 1 week from today against either the Edmonton Eskimos or the British Columbia Lions. The sophomore head coach of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Mike Riley, doing an excellent job of preparing his team for this championship game, accepting congratulations from a rather dejected Bob Ovilovich.
Well, you have to be a little bit dejected, you know. You're 14-4, home field advantage. You got them in your backyard, but you just couldn't deliver the knockout punch. It's a big credit to Winnipeg. When you go on the road and win, it's a big, big club.
So the Bombers 35-28 a week ago over Hamilton in the Eastern semifinal, following up today with a 27-11 win and the reason to celebrate defeating Toronto in the Eastern Championship game. Selecting our Foster's Lager game MVP was a difficult choice this afternoon, but we opted for Rod Hill, the Winnipeg cornerback, who came up with that key block of a Hank Kalisic punt in the third quarter and took it in for a touchdown. And then when the Argos pulled to within 7 in the fourth, managed to come up with an interception that preserved the win. Our Foster's Lager game MVP, Rod Hill, standing by with Scott Oak.
Yeah, just look at me, Rod, if you like. Rod Hill is with me here on the sideline. The Foster's Lager MVP in this game, deservedly so, Rod. The fact was that you guys were huge underdogs coming into this game. I guess wisely so. You paid no attention to that.
Well, I tell you what, we came out here a day earlier, and we had a good time together. We had fun, cracked jokes. And we had no pressure on us. We came out here with a good game plan, and we just executed. I mean, the Argos are a good football team. They won 14-4, so it was a good football game. We were the best man today.
Tell me something about your defensive game plan, because I know that you wouldn't say too much about it coming into Toronto. You kept things pretty quiet about it.
Well, the combination of things. Put pressure on the quarterback and cover tight, bump and run, man-to-man, and we executed, and they couldn't make the adjustments on the move.
Big plays in a big game, I guess, is the best way to describe your performance. Talk a little bit about the block punt, which was a huge play.
Well, what happened, I've been going outside all the time. I just took an inside move, and the guy made a mistake, and I got it happen to block the punt.
The interception was almost as big as well.
Well, I tell you what, the guys don't really allow for jacking around in practice, but I try to do the best I can on game day and follow the game plan and concentrate in. I didn't do anything spectacular. I just made plays when opportunity presented itself.
Rod, your thoughts on going to the Grey Cup with a team that many thought wouldn't even make the playoffs?
Well, I tell you what, when we came in early this year, we knew we were going to have a hard time coming in. But as the season progressed, we made progress, and we got better, and we got the opportunity to win a Grey Cup now.
Rod Hill, congratulations, and good luck in the Grey Cup.
Thank you. I'd like to say hello to my grandmother, Leela Rogers.
Okay, you got it. And this is Mike Riley, the winning head coach today. Mike, have you ever felt better in your professional football career as a head coach?
No, no, I haven't, Scott. It was feels pretty good right now.
Preparation coming into this game was absolutely superb. Now, your defensive game plan, I talked to Rod Hill about this, was pretty much kept under wraps coming into Toronto. Talk about it now, if you would.
Well, we ran into a real problem with Greg Battle being hurt, and you know, we just felt like we need to get our best football players on the field, and that included Willie Sears and Romel Andrews, so we just went to four-man front. That isn't the important part. The effort of the players today was what did it. It wasn't what we were doing. It was how they played hard and did the job.
You really appeared to have Gilbert Renfro confused for most of this game.
Yeah, we did. I think our guys disguised things well, and then the pressure up front was tremendous. They just kept coming and playing hard. It was the key to the whole game. I think the up front by our defensive line and our offensive line early handling theirs was the difference in the ball game.
Yeah, your offensive line really did give Sean Salisbury time. I mean, that was the difference in the 2 losses to the Argos this year. He couldn't get time to do anything. The Argos took turns punishing him, but not today. It was just the reverse.
No, it was just the reverse. I think we got after their quarterback and did the things to them that we needed to do, and they didn't get after ours. We ran the ball some effectively. We had a good mixture, and our team effort was just unbelievable, and that's what I appreciate. And our coaches, all of our coaches, Scott Schumann and Bruce Lemmerman, Bob Padilla, and Urban Bowman and Gene Gaines all did an outstanding job in a tough week of preparation.
Again, Mike, I refer to preparation. During the course of the game, I suggest that you really only had one good day of practice coming into Toronto because you had weather problems in Winnipeg, felt you didn't accomplish a great deal on Friday here in Toronto, good practice on Saturday, but somehow you were ready for the Argos, more than ready.
Well, we felt like it was disruptive, but we also felt like if we just concentrated, and that's what the players did, is even though it was very cold and snowy in Winnipeg, they concentrated and we were able to get things done. We didn't worry about blocking and tackling. We just wanted to make sure that we could execute our defenses and offensive plays and run them, and that was they did that, and they came out and played hard, and it all worked together.
You and I talked about this early in the season. That was you laying awake at night sometimes saying, I've lost 5 All-Canadians. What's the season going to be like? Did you ever envision this sort of ending, although it's not over yet?
Oh, it's not over yet. We got another ball game to go. We got where we need to be right now, and that's, very, very satisfying for our team. Now we'll just get ready for another ball game, but we always look forward to a great season, Scott, even if no matter what happens. My main point to the whole group was if you just keep plugging, we're going to have a good football team eventually, and the guys did that, the coaches did that. Cal Murphy and Bill Quinter did a great job of bringing in players.
Finally, Mike, an emotional football game for you, but still your team managed to keep its emotions under control when it counted today. That is to say, there weren't that rash of penalties that you suffered in games past.
No, we just told them not to back down, to go play hard, but don't let whatever happen hurt the team. And I think that's really what they did. We played very, very hard and took everything right to them.
All right, congratulations. We'll see you in Ottawa.
I want to say hi to Dee and my kids back home.
Okay, Mike, thanks. Don?
Okay, Scott, well, that certainly saves the price of a phone call. But of all the people in the Winnipeg Blue Bomber organization that this win probably is most satisfying for is General Manager Cal Murphy. Cal, Scott talked about the defections, the loss of a number of All-Canadians from a year ago. You took some heat in Winnipeg, but you suggested that if the fans were patient, you would be able to rebuild the football team. I think you have to be pretty happy with what you've done.
Well, I think today is kind of a culmination of everything that's gone on throughout the season. We felt that we could be here and be in the Grey Cup if we stayed after a few things. We felt we had good players, and of course we always felt that the biggest loss we had was the fact that we lost Tom Clements, and I think that we've filled the spot with the quarterbacks we've brought in, and along with Tom Mickey that's been here and played very well for us throughout the year. And you have to have quarterbacking if you're going to win, and I think that was the last obstacle we had to fill.
Cal, how do you as a general manager come up with these players? Other teams struggling to replace injured players or departed players. Both the Blue Bombers and the Toronto Argonauts this year seem to do a very good job of coming up with adequate replacements.
Well, I think, you have to give some credit to the people in the organization. Bill Quinter is the personnel man, and the fact that what we've done also is scouted the NFL camps the last couple of years. And, some of these people we've had on our list for some time. Tim Jesse has been on it for about a year. We tried to get him, and then we found out that he was on Calgary's negotiation list, so we just waited. But Rod Hill, we saw in the Detroit camp last year, and bided our time and managed to get him, and those plays he made today were just outstanding.
Well, we've always joked with you and referred to you as kindly Cal before the ball games, and you've always seemed to be in a fairly jovial mood. Today you seem to be particularly happy and confident coming into the ball game. Did you feel that your team was ready to play well?
Yeah, I really felt that the way we, I think the fact that we came in here Thursday night helped us a little bit because it helped us get over that travel time, and, we weren't as good at practice as we'd like to have been on Friday. But yesterday, the way the players were coming to the practice field and on the bus and at the practice field, it was business, but yet they were loose and having a lot of fun. And you just kind of felt like, hey, it's going to take one heck of an effort from those other people to beat us today. And because we were ready to play, and we're a good football team. It wasn't any stroke of luck today. That was good football.
Cal, you return home this evening about 8:30 back to Winnipeg. When do you leave for Ottawa?
Well, right now we're scheduled to go out Wednesday, but maybe leaving the evening before is the way to go. We'll have to think about that.
I'm sure you might have a few requests now from your season ticket holders for Grey Cup tickets.
Good luck.
Well, Grey Cup tickets are really the hottest item in the nation's capital these days, a full house of 50,000. We'll be watching that game. We'll have it for you 1 week from Sunday, and quarterbacking the Winnipeg Blue Bombers will be Sean Salisbury, who's standing by now with Scotto.
Right, Don, if you want to talk recruiting, there is no question the biggest acquisition during the course of this season for the Bombers was this fella, all 6'5", 210 pounds of him, quarterback Sean Salisbury. His statistics tell a major story in today's game, and Sean, I think that you were one of about 30 people, those being the rest of the Bombers, who believed that you could do this today.
There wasn't a whole lot more people that did. We knew all week long that we could play with these guys, and we'd proven it the last 2 times. Although we were beat, we knew we had a chance. And when you hear people on TV and reading the papers and everybody saying that we didn't stand a chance, I think it kind of lit a fire under us, and we just wanted to go out there and play our game plan and execute it, and that's what we did.
I'm going to give you some time here to make a free-time political telecast on your offensive line.
Unbelievable. Those guys have been taking a lot of flack this year, and I continually give them credit, and they continually deserve credit. I was sacked them, twice today maybe, and they did a phenomenal job. There wasn't very many late hits, if there was any, and those guys stuck with them the whole way, and they're to be commended, and they did a super job, and look what our defense and special teams did, and I'm just glad I was a part of it.
When you look back on those 2 regular season losses to the Argonauts and how the Argos took turns punishing you, people thought that would have been the case today, but not so.
I think a lot of their focus was trying to get me out of the game, and you know, when you read about it and they say that I'm not going to last through it, I guess it kind of irks me a little bit because I'm out here to win a football game with my team, and the line did a good job. Our whole team did a great job, and we're going to Ottawa, and it's a great feeling.
Did you think you might have caught the Argos off guard today because they were stunned by the early scoring you did?
Yes, and I also think that us being able to run the football, and if you saw us raising up and throwing good, quick, short passes to keep our, we'd drop back, and then we'd run a 3-step drop, and then we mixed it in, and we moved the pocket a little bit, and guys caught the ball in this bad weather, which is usually a good sign for Winnipeg, and it worked out real well, and I had a lot of help around me. It sure as heck just wasn't me.
Sean, you had a decision to make during the course of the season when you were given an offer by a couple of NFL teams, but you picked the Winnipeg Blue Bombers ahead of them. I can't imagine now that you're thinking anything other than good things about the decision you made.
No regrets at all. This is the best decision I made. It's given me a chance to play football with some great guys, and more importantly, win and go to what they call the Super Bowl of the CFL, and it's a great feeling. And no matter what level you're at or what league you're playing in, winning is what it's all about, and I'm sure glad I get a chance to play in this final game.
Well, I can tell you the Grey Cup is a big deal in Canada. Because it's your first one, do you have any idea just how big it is?
Just from what I hear and from what I read and from what the guys say, and it's nice to have Winnipeg back in the Grey Cup. And I don't know, obviously, all the hoopla that goes with it, but I can imagine, and I'm just glad I'm a part of it, and I'm going to do the best I can to help our team go on and win a football game.
All right, Sean Salisbury, everybody else has. Do you want to say the price of a phone call and say hello to anybody?
Yes, I do. I want to say hi to my family, my mother, my father, my wife, Kim, and especially to my USC Trojans, who are number one.
Equal time. Sean Salisbury, thanks very much. We'll return to Exhibition Stadium in Toronto in just a moment.
Decades of memories crystallized on CBC. Remember 1966?
Russ Jackson drops back.
Still searching, and it's for Whitman Tucker. Complete. At the 25, T-base west. Touchdown.
Still capturing the moments. The CFL on CBC.
Ron, as you and I discussed over the past couple of days, for Winnipeg to win this afternoon, they had to play an almost error-free football game. I don't think we've seen the Bombers play much better than they did today, and they also avoided those foolish penalties that have hurt them in the past.
That was the key for them coming into today, and when you talk like that, there's one more thing you throw in, big plays. And they got one right at the end of the first quarter with about 4 seconds left with the wind at their back. Salisbury just throws this ball downfield. Now, it's hard to tell who he was throwing to other than Murphy, but Murphy was nowhere in the vicinity when he threw it. But he made a heck of an adjustment to the football, finally just looked over his head and caught it, and that set up the first touchdown. The biggest play probably third quarter. Here it comes. We saw this before. Rod Hill blocks the punt. Now, he's done this before, but this time he's fortunate enough for him to recover it. He just jogs it on into the end zone. So that's one of his big plays. Very next time they look like they're going to do anything with the football, watch who makes the interception. Number 10, going to step right in front, make the interception again for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. He gets a good return. Dwight Edwards will make the tackle on him here out of bounds, and then Ryan Hansen comes in, gives him a late shot. This gives him a 15-yard penalty on top of that. And then finally, this is the way it went for Michael Gray all day. He played a heck of a football game, coming in from the outside, gets the pressure, causes the fumble. Willie Fears recovers it, and it's just about, that was it. They sealed it and started packing to go to Ottawa.
Well, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers at one stage in the season put together a 5-game winning streak. Then they lost 3 in a row, 3 very key games, 2 to Toronto, 1 to BC. Now they're heading for a 3rd straight win. Can they do it next week?
Well, you never worry about Grey Cup games. You know you'll be ready to play, and when you're ready to play, you have a chance.
And we'll have that Grey Cup game next Sunday afternoon from Lansdowne Park in Ottawa. Right now, let's rejoin Scott O.
All right, then, Don, as upsets go, they do not rate much bigger than this one. The Bombers were an almost unanimous pick to be watching the Grey Cup from Ottawa next week as opposed to playing in it. But now, by virtue of a major upset over the Argos, who beat them twice in the regular schedule, the Bombers are on their way to Ottawa to play in the Grey Cup. And we'll be there as well. We want to remind you our Grey Cup Sunday begins with our countdown show at 1 o'clock Eastern, followed by the game at 2:30. Kickoff scheduled to go at 3 Eastern. For Ron Lancaster and Don Whitman, this is Scott Oak reminding you the CFL on CBC is your Grey Cup network coast to coast. The head of network sports for the CBC is Arthur Smith. Senior producer of the CFL on CBC is Doug Sellers. This game directed by Ron Harrison. Inside the CFL is produced by Steve Lansky. Our isolation director today, Mo Waters. And the names of the rest of our crew, production and technical, who make the CFL on CBC possible. A final reminder to be with us 1 week today from Ottawa for the 76th Grey Cup game. And for now, goodbye from Exhibition Stadium in Toronto.